Chen Cheng pulled Tang Xing aside, dropping his voice. Did you record all the design drawings I gave you? Got them all. Even the preservatives are sorted, everything's compliant. Tang Xing had already mass-produced all 30 packaging types. The first day's volume wouldn't be huge, but the production line wouldn't stop. Good. Make sure the packaging is perfect. Don't reuse the old kind. I need absolute transparency. Chen Cheng wasn't just concerned with looks. Nutshells were hard, some with sharp edges. If the packaging tore, moisture would seep in and ruin everything. Don't worry, 0 problems this time. Tang Xing grinned and waved a hand. He'd already given the orders. They had tested the packaging material 3 days ago. No other food packaging on the market came close. The film had originally been designed for medical equipment, chosen for its extreme clarity and high flexibility. As Chen Cheng finished his meal, the whole town was already buzzing. Every shelf had been stocked with nuts and pastries from E-Food Factory. When merchants posted the notice that the factory had been renamed E, customers went into a frenzy. They didn't know how the stuff tasted, but they knew Chen Cheng never used the same old methods for new products. Isn't this just sunflower seeds? And they're charging $1 a bag? A customer tore open a pack, baffled. Sure, they were shelled kernels, but that price was insane. A lot of people quietly put the products back and watched that first buyer. I'll just taste it. If it's no good, I'm not buying any of it. A grinning man egged him on. Go ahead, try it. If it's bad, you don't have to buy a thing. Fine. Try it. No big deal. The moment the kernels hit his tongue, he froze. Something was different. It felt like, no way. He dumped the whole pack into his mouth. That flavor was so familiar. This tastes like crab. He squinted at the package, crab roe, and there were more: barbecue, garlic, cream. Forget the other flavors, just give me 2 of each. He didn't bother asking questions. He bought 2 packs of every kind and headed home. Word spread fast. Some people even camped outside convenience stores, reviewing E's products live. These egg rolls are wild. I thought they'd be like cookies, but there's filling inside. And these nuts. I usually hate almonds, but the cream flavor is actually good. The reviewer tore open garlic-flavored sunflower seeds with a critical EY. No chance those could work. He frowned, picked one, and tossed it in. Weird taste, but some people would love it. Within 5 minutes, the egg rolls and almonds sold out. Customers were driving to other stores to hunt for more. Chen Cheng stepped up to the reviewer. Hey, man. You've got a silver tongue. Interested in working for my company? You. The young man gave him a skeptical once-over. The guy looked familiar, but he couldn't place him. I'm Chen Cheng. If you're serious, come find me at EE anytime. He handed over a business card, freshly printed after lunch, with the new address. Then he turned and walked off at a brisk pace. A moment later, he realized the young man was right behind him. He chased him the whole way. Chen Cheng, I'm in. How much are you paying? Only the salary mattered, nothing else. Do you know what sales actually is? I see real potential. I'll train you. Once you start, you'll make $1,500 a month, base pay. Commissions on top. Chen Cheng said it with total confidence. That base was already sky high, and he just started talking. $1,500 a month, that was 10 times what the young man earned now. He didn't hesitate. My name's Wang Ping'an. He admitted he talked too much. That was why he'd never kept a job. Chen Cheng smiled. Good steel should go to the blade. Hardly anyone in this era understood marketing or how to work the offline market. He valued Wang Ping'an's mouth. The guy could generate profit and buzz for the company. That move would lay the foundation for Wang Ping'an's future career. He would become one of Chen Cheng's most indispensable generals. Come meet everyone. This is Wang Ping'an. He'll be heading sales from now on. Well, he's an apprentice for now. Chen Cheng introduced him to Zhu Kaiyang and Feng Yilu with a grin. Personnel and finances, the company's core. Brother Zhu, brother Feng. Just tell me what to do. I'm Wang Khan, call me Xiao Khan. Wang Khan was a natural. Before long he was joking around with the whole factory. He learned fast, too. After just 2 training sessions with Chen Cheng, he'd memorized the entire product line. Right now we're in the food business, Chen Cheng said. We'll expand later, but first I need you to build a hype around the nuts. Sales still aren't hitting my target. He wasn't exaggerating. Almonds and sunflower seeds were moving best, but the split was too lopsided. Walnuts were the real star. He needed those numbers up, or 100 pounds would rot on the shelves. Here's my take. Start at the source and redo the packaging. Wang Khan explained that the current packaging wasn't eye-catching enough. Sure, nuts were high-end, but these lower-tier ones couldn't win on price alone. If it were up to him, he'd pick something with strong visual appeal. The outer packaging couldn't look old-fashioned. Sorry if that's blunt, but I'm still young. He said he'd rather grab instant noodles with cartoon characters than settle for these walnuts. Packaging marketing is crucial. If we went with gift boxes, we wouldn't be this stuck. Gift boxes, Chen Cheng had considered that, but controlling the weight was tricky. From now on, they'd have to adopt a completely new packaging method. E-Food Factory was all over the news lately, rising faster than any other name in the food industry. Every major paper in the city had run features on their startup story, and that was the day an uninvited guest showed up. I told you, I'm not going to. No matter what you offer, more money, better terms, I'm not coming back. Wang Ping'an heard Feng Yang arguing before he even reached the office door. Li Changyu stood outside, shrugging. He'd been listening to this for half an hour. Why didn't you tell me? When a guest visits, the factory manager should play host. Wang Ping'an walked in with an easy smile. He sized up the stranger before asking, and you are? You're Wang Ping'an, right? I'm Ziegler, regional manager for Cryan Conglomerate. I'm here to discuss Feng Yang's future with your company. This Ziegler wasn't just some random suit. Cryan Conglomerate was rolling out a new strategic plan, and they'd finally woken up to Feng Yang's foresight. The more they wanted him, the less Wang Ping'an planned to let go. He already knew exactly how to handle this. My employees don't need you deciding their futures. Besides, Feng Yang is happy here. At least we're fighting for something we actually believe in. Wang Ping'an brushed it off, then added a warning. Some people needed to learn not to cross the line. Fighting? Ziegler sneered. A tiny food factory talking about fighting? You have no idea what Cryan Conglomerate is planning. We're going to crush every single operation like yours. Sell now while you still can, or you'll lose everything. The office air went stale. Feng Yang didn't say a word. He knew exactly what this meant. Once General Manager Liu gave the order, the entire rural and township food supply chain would be shattered. Cryan Conglomerate had been preparing this plan for years. It had been his idea in the first place. I don't believe it. Ask my staff if they believe it. Wang Ping'an smiled. He wasn't about to argue. Li Changyu shook his head firmly. He didn't understand business. He just knew that as long as Wang Ping'an was around, he wouldn't go hungry. Fine. In a few days, you'll see the results. Don't say I didn't warn you. Ziegler tossed his business card on the desk. If Wang Ping'an changed his mind, he could call anytime. He'd be happy to act as the middleman. Watching him leave, Feng Yang felt a cold knot tighten in his chest. What's the big deal? He's just a regional manager. I don't know much about Cryan Conglomerate, but I know you've got a plan. Wang Ping'an patted Feng Yang's shoulder and gestured for him to sit. After a long pause, Feng Yang finally spoke. Wang Ping'an, I swear I didn't know they'd find me here. I used to work for Cryan Conglomerate, but now I'm part of this company. That's where I belong. He laid it out, When Cryan Conglomerate launched their strategic plan, they'd target rural areas and towns first. The profit margins on food products there were huge, and with no dominant player yet, Cryan Conglomerate's move would hit hard. I know, Wang Ping'an said. Next, they'll build their own commercial system in those areas. Small market now, but in a few years it'll be a different story. In his memory, it took only 3 to 5 years. Cryan stores would pop up like mushrooms after rain, dominating the supermarket industry for decades. That kind of dominance didn't happen by accident. Their groundwork was flawless, and no matter how foreign markets fluctuated or domestic trends shifted, those little convenience stores never ran out of stock. You know more than I expected, so Ziegler's warning is real. How are you going to handle it? The question landed back on Wang Ping'an. He didn't have a clear answer yet. I'll figure it out. If our factory can pivot successfully, I can throw Cryan Conglomerate's entire plan off course. He wasn't confident. Cryan Conglomerate's capital chain was massive. They wouldn't stop expanding for one region. All he could do was ramp up production before the market was completely saturated. Tell me, Wang Ping'an said, with our factory's current scale, how long would it take to dominate the entire city? The question sounded arrogant. Even Feng Yang thought he was crazy. Honestly, 2 years, and that's only if every product sells well. Special circumstances, like more people like you rejecting the products, would kill the business. Consumer rejection was the worst thing that could happen to a food company. Exactly. So instead of making enemies with Cryan Conglomerate, we let them authorize us. We surround the city from another angle. Wang Ping'an saw it clearly. It was possible, but from now on, he had to control every penny. Where are you going? Feng Yang saw him turn to leave and hurried after him, worried. To an internet cafe. I need to check the market. With that, Wang Ping'an left the factory. He didn't expect that the moment he walked into the cafe, the sleepy-eyed regulars all jumped to their feet. Whoa, you guys look like you've been mainlining caffeine. No kidding, we've been waiting for you for days. Man. You're a legend. It was the same kid who'd seen Wang Ping'an buy stocks before. He'd scraped together some cash, only to wait almost 2 weeks for Wang Ping'an to show up again. Wang Ping'an logged in. His original holdings had ballooned to 5 million. And the number kept climbing. If I had more capital, I'd take them to the cleaners. He didn't liquidate his Tianji shares. That would be stupid. Instead, he opened another account under the company's name and kept buying. Staring at the meager 200,000 left, he knew what was coming. The more capital you had, the more you could invest. Tianji would keep rising for months. By the end of the year, he'd be the dark horse. But every penny he invested now was for the factory. He just had to get busy over the next few days. Pegasus' official launch was set for 10 days from now, but once you factored in early promotions and prep work, the real window shrank to about a week. By then, sales representatives would be swarming in to negotiate. They had no intention of producing or selling the goods themselves. Their play was simple. Place massive bulk orders and use that leverage to crush the prices. 7 days, that money hits $1 million. Enough to burn right alongside you if it comes to that, but I'm betting you'll clean up on this. Wave. Wang Ping'an had already done the math. The moment Pegasus rushed their launch, half the factories around here would buckle under the strain. Then he'd sweep through and buy every single one in the township. Even if Pegasus tried to expand elsewhere, they'd be forced to source produce from a distance. How could fresh goods shipped in from far away ever compete with his? Hi, this is Wang Ping'an. I want to acquire your factory. Wang Ping'an, I'm interested in your facility. Can we? He spent the entire afternoon on calls. He'd gotten every factory owner's contact info from Feng Yang, though his brother-in-law deserved most of the credit for that. Feng Yang stared at him, baffled. He couldn't wrap his head around where Wang Ping'an had suddenly found the capital to buy out entire operations. Don't ask. My old man wired me a lump sum. These people will fold the second they see what I'm offering. And he wasn't wrong. Some owners were ready to sell, but the initial quotes they threw at Wang Ping'an were insultingly high. He turned them down flat. 600,000 for a fully automated production plant. That's rock bottom. Are you joking? Feng Yang gaped at him, convinced Wang Ping'an had been drinking. I'm not joking. 600,000 used to be reasonable, but right now, in my eyes, that factory is worth 160. Not a dime more. Wang Ping'an's voice was ice. Anyone looking to unload their factory needed to tell him immediately. He left and walked back toward his own plant. The reason he'd approached Feng Yang, and no one else, was simple. Feng Yang had zero real interest in this business. He didn't share Boss Wang's ambition. A man like that was the perfect person to deal with. If Boss Wang or his crew caught wind of his plans, they'd turn on him in a heartbeat. Everything would collapse, and Wang Ping'an would be forced to lock his doors for good. Mohammed stopped by again this afternoon. This time, he brought Pegasus' authorization agreement. Seems like he thinks he's doing us a huge favor. Ziegler said he hadn't signed yet. He set the document down in front of Wang Ping'an. Authorization. Look, as long as he agrees to take our goods, we'll authorize, but here's the condition. Whether they sell or not, that's their problem. Payment is cash on delivery. Wang Ping'an knew exactly how the other side operated. Signing this authorization now was nothing more than handing him a staged exit. But the moment they were ready to acquire him, they'd shred the contract. Then Wang Ping'an would be left with nothing. Whatever terms he threw out now, Pegasus would accept without hesitation, without suspicion. Are you out of your mind? There is no way they'll agree to terms that brutal. And even if they do, it's a trap. Ziegler's voice rose. The company was just starting to recover. They couldn't torch it all this fast. Don't get so worked up. I'm not trying to get us killed. I'm telling you, this is exactly the game I'm playing. So tell me, do you dare to bet on it? Wang Ping'an smiled, challenge flickering in his eyes. He'd learned that whenever he and Ziegler hit a communication wall, a small wager usually solved the problem. Tell me what the bet is. I already lost the last one. But I didn't walk, even with Pegasus' generous offer dangling in my face. Ziegler stared at him, dead serious. He just didn't want to watch Ping'an factory go under. If we beat Pegasus this round, and the factory survives, then you go work on General Manager Liu. Get him to hand over every shop that's been set up in the township. Wang Ping'an added that he'd pay Liu 1-1. No need to get cute about it. Ziegler listened, then nodded once. Firm. Fine. I'll take that bet if you lose. I don't want much, just half the money when the factory is liquidated. Deal. I'll make sure you and Liu meet again. Wang Ping'an waved and walked out. Everything was under control. The contract itself held real weight. And Pegasus had only sent this one to Wang Ping'an with Ping'an factory. If they didn't have those products, why would Liu dangle such a massive carrot in front of them? On the other end, Mohammed wasn't pleased. He knew Wang Ping'an was the hardest nut to crack in the entire region. A contract alone wouldn't lock in the wind. He needed to strike while the iron was hot. I'm just as curious. Why is Liu so fixated on such a small factory? Logically, Ziegler shouldn't carry that much weight with him. His deputy was equally puzzled, but who were they to question orders from above? He just hoped Wang Ping'an would sign so he could report back. Sir, Wang Ping'an is waiting at the door. He says he wants to talk. What? Mohammed hurried out. He hadn't expected Wang Ping'an to come straight to him. Factory manager Wang, this is a surprise. I never thought you'd look me up. Mohammed smiled and waved for his staff to brew tea, introducing Wang Ping'an as a good friend. Actually, I came to return the contract that I've already signed it, but there are 2 additional conditions. Wang Ping'an set down the terms he'd written out. He suggested Mohammed check with Liu before making any decision. Mohammed hesitated. Wang Ping'an's move had clearly put him in an uncomfortable spot. Still, he called Liu that if he made a unilateral decision, he'd be on the hook for it. To his shock, Liu agreed to Wang Ping'an's terms without a second thought. Listen to me. Do whatever it takes to cooperate with him and finalize the entire contract. Don't explain anything else to anyone. The only thing I care about is this contract. Liu's words made his position crystal clear, and Mohammed couldn't help but treat Wang Ping'an with newfound respect. So here's what we'll do: tear up that contract. Liu has already faxed over a new one. You just sign this. Sure enough, the freshly faxed contract already included the 2 new conditions. Liu was being generous with Wang Ping'an this time. Wang Ping'an didn't hesitate. He wrote his name down clean and clear, then told Mohammed to burn the shredded contract with a lighter. Good. Almost nobody noticed at first. It wasn't until 3 days later that people started to realize something was off. The number of traveling businessmen had swelled overnight. Their clothes and body language screamed out of town. Southern bosses, mostly. Their distinct accents only confirmed it. There was no mistaking them for locals. A flood of outsiders pouring into the city was strange enough. But what made it stranger was how they bypassed the urban center entirely. They headed straight for the smaller towns and surrounding villages. Something's up. My gut's been off the last 2 days. Feng Yang sat in Wang Ping'an's office, sipping tea. He'd practically turned the place into his second office. Actually, he spent more time at Wang Ping'an's food factory than he did at his own company. A couple of employees had even started joking that their boss had run off with Wang Ping'an. The truth was, acquisition talks with those outside merchants had already collapsed and no one was willing to budge, and the offers they were making, laughably low. Now I get why you laid the groundwork early. If this group can't agree on a price, they'll come crawling to you. Except there's a catch. Feng Yang had pieced it together quickly. Only one scenario could trigger something like this. A new business model was about to gut the traditional economy, and the majority of factories being approached wouldn't survive it. You're sharp, Feng Yang, I'll give you that. But tell me. Do you really believe an individual investor can swallow all those factories? Wang Ping'an set his teacup down. That was the piece Feng Yang hadn't worked out yet. If it were Feng Yang calling the shots, he'd probably hand over his entire business within weeks. There was just no way around it. The man didn't have that kind of strategic mind. If he did, he wouldn't be thinking like this. So Wang Ping'an needed to fan the flames. In those first few days, none of the factories would cave. If he wanted to take over their operations quickly, he had to apply some pressure. But he couldn't push too hard. If he did, he'd only end up helping Murdoch. And that was the last thing Wang Ping'an wanted. On his own turf, Murdoch had to stay down. Let's pull the rug out from under them, leak a few details, better yet, contact some newspapers and issue a public notice. Wang Ping'an told Master Wang to take care of it. He didn't bother explaining his reasoning. That's a dangerous move. If it backfires, the consequences could be catastrophic. Li Changyu understood exactly what Wang Ping'an was aiming for. He was forcing a confrontation. If news about Murdoch spread ahead of schedule, those factory owners would have no choice but to fight back. That would throw a massive wrench into Murdoch's acquisition timeline. The factories would raise their asking prices and band together, making it impossible for Murdoch to close any deals. But when it comes time for you to buy them out, you'll have the same problem. If those bosses hold firm and old Jiang makes his move, you're out of options. Li Changyu thought Wang Ping'an was being far too reckless. They should wait, observe the landscape, and only then decide, no, you're wrong. We've already seized the advantage. Whether we acquire them or not doesn't hurt us, but it does create a whole new set of obstacles for my future plans. If he wanted to scale big, he had to think long term. The last person anyone would ever suspect was him. And he could exploit this 1 week window to slide right into their sales model before they knew what hit them. Running a chain of fruit and vegetable supermarkets isn't that easy to pull off. What happens when the farmers and orchard owners refuse to supply Murdoch? Wang Ping'an said he only needed 2 weeks to crush Murdoch's hope completely. As for those farmers and orchard owners, he'd buy their entire output himself for those 2 weeks. Better that than handing a single shipment over to Murdoch. If Murdoch's supermarkets were forced to import from outside the region, they'd truly lose. Li Changyu stared at him, baffled. Are you really that confident the other side will just follow your script? Of course I'm not certain, but no one gets up early for nothing. Don't underestimate those farmers. They're not fools. When a commercial force hits a market, it has to spend big. And more than anything, it needs local support. What Wang Ping'an had working in his favor was exactly that. His backing. His local support was stronger than anything an outside company could muster. For starters, just getting past Wang Feng would be no easy task. Brother Wang, my sales have been solid these last 2 days. Look around. Who's shipping out more product than me right now? Right on cue, Wang Feng called. Actually, there's someone who's moved more than you. Wang Ping'an told him it was none other than Master Wang. Don't mess with me. I'm pushing tens of thousands of units a day. Master Wang's little truck carries what? A couple hundred at best. Come on. Wang Feng didn't buy it. He assumed Master Wang was just going through the motions, but Wang Ping'an wasn't joking. Master Wang's truck was small, sure. A few thousand units per load, but he made multiple trips, and his operation was strictly loading and unloading. All the distribution channels had already been locked in. The way I see it, you take a smaller margin and just keep the product moving. That's the whole game. Master Wang had spilled his secret right in front of Wang Ping'an, and it sparked an idea. Master Wang, how many years have you been driving big rigs? This was about experience. Anyone with more than a decade behind the wheel, especially heavy trucks, would do 15 years. I used to haul for construction sites. Good pay, but it wears you down. Master Wang said his current setup was perfect. He drove and delivered the loading and unloading, not his headache. How would you feel about starting your own transport team? Dedicated hauling and delivery. I'll make you the captain. Wang Ping'an smiled. It was a solid idea. These guys weren't busy every second of the day. Besides, they couldn't rely on hauling for him forever. Once all those factories were up and running, this model would be obsolete anyway. What do you mean? You supply the trucks, and we run the transport side. Master Wang blinked. He'd only been hauling for Wang Ping'an because there was no work at the construction site. Moving goods paid fast. Just cover the fuel and go. But if things fell apart, he might not even have a truck left to use. Think it over. Any brothers who want in, Wang Ping'an, will bring you on at a top rate. No more grinding yourself into the ground. These days, you couldn't take anything for granted. If a plan was going to work, you had to strike first. For Chen Cheng, preempting the competition meant controlling the game from the start. The public backlash was hitting Su Guo hard. They had no idea where the leak came from. The newspapers had printed their entire strategy, down to the smallest detail. Every executive sat there, stunned. What the hell is this? President Ma slammed his hand on the conference table. Someone give me an explanation. The launch was supposed to be 3 days away. Now everything was out in the open. We don't have a choice. His secretary cut in. We move the timeline up. If we stall or deny, the media will tear us apart. She warned him that if the acquisition plan wasn't finalized soon, the other side would jack up the price, so we bleed from round one. What if we just hold off? Ma thought a delay might let them recover, but if the paper was right, Sugua's entire strategy was about to collapse. His phone rang off the hook. Partner companies and supply chain contacts demanded answers. Ma didn't pick up. These people are ruthless. One of the township business owners was fuming. I thought they were investing, not stealing our factories and land. Sugua hadn't been straight with any of them. Then the regional branch manager submitted his revised proposal. He saw an opportunity. Someone had used the media to generate buzz for them. We just saved a fortune on advertising. Since somebody inside the group leaked the info, let's roll with it. He argued that in this day and age, only a decisive move would work. That if they came clean and held a press conference, they could cement Sugua's position. The only catch, they couldn't afford to wait. They had to open their stores immediately. Everyone clear on the plan? Ma scanned the room. We launch right now. The date was set for the next morning, 8:08 at sharp. Sugua would go live nationwide. Check the evening paper. Zhu Kaiyang handed the newspaper across the desk. Sugua put out a statement. They confirmed the leak and announced their opening at 8:08 tomorrow. The rest of the article analyzed their strategy. Chen Cheng smiled and set the paper down. Not bad. Their PR team knows how to turn a crisis into traffic. Too bad for them that nobody can outsmart fate. He leaned back. I don't know about anywhere else, but here, Sugua doesn't stand a chance. Nobody was sure he was right. Even his management team thought he was overconfident, but the truth was, Chen Cheng had already opened his stores ahead of Sugua. The moment the rumors started, he'd set up his entire retail network. For now, he only stocked fruit and snacks. That didn't matter. The next step was to negotiate with the villagers for their produce. Feng Yilu's voice came through the phone. Brother, we locked in all the orchards in the village, and why Dad ran around and got the price down as low as it can go. Vegetables were still an issue. The village grew fruit trees, not vegetables. They'd have to find another supplier. Here's what we do. Start with what we have. All vegetables need to be sanitized before they hit the shelves. That's non-negotiable. Chen Cheng grabbed his jacket and headed out, dragging Zhu Kaiyang with him. Da Feng, hold down the fort. If something comes up you can't handle, call me. He pointed at the landline on the office desk. The township had a big produce market, packed every day with vendors. Before I came, I did a quick survey. Zhu Kaiyang said about 10% of the veggies here are locally grown, pricey. The other 90% come from an industrial farm to the west. Someone's already cornered that supply. We just need to talk to their boss. Chen Cheng liked the sound of that. It saved him time. He didn't have a farm of his own, so buying from a middleman was the next best thing. I know you. A tall, lean man in his 40s stepped forward with a friendly face. Chen Cheng. You've been making waves. Emma.ye. I'm here to talk business. I want you to supply my stores. Not everything, just a few varieties. Chen Cheng's business model didn't rely on vegetables alone. They'd only carry enough to fill out the inventory. Fresh greens wilted fast. Bad appearance, no way to recover. Look, the market vendors pay me 30% above cost. Yi Long smiled, thinking he was being generous. I'll give you 20. I was thinking 10. Starting today, my order volume will be bigger than all your current clients combined. Chen Cheng laid it out flat. Volume keeps going up. The moment it drops, we go back to 30. Fine. You're confident. I like that. 10%. No problem. What do you need? Yi Long was easygoing. 20% wasn't much to him anyway, and Chen Cheng had a reputation for creative thinking. You're ordering a lot all at once. Any special requirements? I don't have a cold chain, and my washing setup is basic. He gestured at his simple hose system. I just need an air shower. We'll handle the rest in our own facility. Chen Cheng placed an order for that day's delivery, about 10 pounds of vegetables. It wasn't much. He was testing the waters. At that volume, if he priced it close to the local market, he could pull in a lot of customers. I think you've lost your mind. What are you going to do if you can't sell all these vegetables? Feng Yang shook his head, exasperated. Wang Ping'an always moved way too fast. Don't worry. I already talked to a dehydration plant. If we don't sell everything by the end of the day, we offload it to them at raw material cost. They'd be fools to say no. Wang Ping'an grinned. Before he even started, he'd already figured out how to move the unsold fruit and vegetables. Of course, he still needed to buy a processing plant to lay the groundwork for making his own snacks. Hey, does our factory have a drying machine? The thought hit him, and he turned to Feng Yang. No drying machine. What, you planning to make cookies? Feng Yang frowned. There were already a ton of cookie brands out there, and different production lines meant too many things could go wrong. You're wrong. I'm just thinking about how to sell off the fruit I can't move. In his past life, people went crazy for dried fruit snacks. All you needed was a drying machine. Right now, that was exactly what Wang Ping'an didn't have. The food factory just wasn't that well equipped. He almost laughed at the irony. Come on, one last stop. I already contacted Li Changyu. He'll sort out our packaging issues. Wang Ping'an hopped on his bike, and they headed off to see Boss Wang about the packaged products business. When Boss Wang spotted Wang Ping'an, he hurried out to offer him a cigarette. To him, Wang Ping'an and Feng Yang were like gods of wealth. Walking through his door, Brother Wang, what brings you here today? Boss Wang ushered them inside. His shop was usually quiet, with orders picked up by trucks and three-wheelers on a fixed schedule. I'm here to stock up, but I want the lowest price. Here's my list. Wang Ping'an handed over the paper. Boss Wang glanced at it, puzzled. He'd never carried any of these items. What was Wang Ping'an up to? Brother, I don't have this stuff here. You'd have to go into the city to find it. Are you planning to open a supermarket? It's not even close to ready. Supermarkets aren't that easy to pull off. Wang Ping'an told him if he came across any suppliers, to let him know they could just call. Then why'd you bother coming all the way out here? That's a hassle. Boss Wang waved dismissively and walked them out. Truth was, Wang Ping'an had no choice. He wished he had a dedicated source to import food products, but his own stuff wouldn't cut it alone. That defeated the whole point of a supermarket. He had to cover every category. Tell you what, let me contact driver and have him bring the truck over to haul it all. Wang Ping'an turned back and pulled out his bank card this time. I knew you had more stuff you hadn't bought. What do you need? Boss Wang grinned, promising rock-bottom prices, and unlike cigarettes and alcohol, everything else could be returned if it didn't sell. Don't joke. I'd rather eat the loss than let you know something didn't move. Just pack everything I pointed at. For a moment, Boss Wang was stunned. Wang Ping'an had jabbed his finger at dozens of random items. Don't worry. Pack exactly what I picked, nothing else. Anyone who'd lived through these years knew what sold. Snacks had a huge market, especially the small impulse buys, and that was Wang Ping'an's angle. Once his own snack items hit the market, the money train would grind to a halt. I'm curious, why aren't you stocking drinks? Is your supermarket not going to sell water? Feng Yang watched as the truck unloaded crate after crate into the factory, but Wang Ping'an hadn't bought a single bottle. You don't get it. I need to go see someone. Wang Ping'an grabbed only a bag of oranges, pedaled his bike, and rode up to a factory gate. A beverage factory. This is a juice place. Feng Yang caught a strong fruit aroma, but it didn't smell entirely pure. Can I help you, gentlemen? The security guard blocked their way. Feng Yang eyed the guard. If a branch office needed this level of security, what must headquarters be like? Don't start anything. This is a major beverage company. We can't work with them. Feng Yang thought Wang Ping'an had lost all sense of proportion. This wasn't a joke, relax. Just follow my lead. Wang Ping'an had come to the beverage factory for one reason, to secure exclusive regional distribution rights. And of course, he'd invest cash if they knew what would happen in 3 years. They wouldn't be doubting him now. Hello, I'm the regional administrative manager for this beverage company. Nice to meet you, manager. I'm Wang Ping'an. Just an ordinary GUYMY purpose today is to invest in your company. Wang Ping'an sat down with a slight smile. He said he believed in the company's potential and wanted to use their production line to support one of his own projects. That was good news. The manager beamed and asked how much Wang Ping'an was planning to invest. If it was just contract manufacturing, they could slap the company brand on it and split the profits. No, I'd like you to call General Manager Liu. If he agrees, I'll buy 10 million yuan worth of shares in a week. When Wang Ping'an said that, Feng Yang's eyes went wide. Don't go overboard. Where are we going to get 10 million? He kept his voice low, but if he didn't stop this now, who knew what Wang Ping'an would do next? Hearing that, the manager immediately called headquarters. He warned Wang Ping'an that if this wasn't true, the consequences would be serious. The company had been around for over a decade. They didn't want any negative press. Just tell him the truth. If General Manager Liu agrees, I'll lay out my full proposal. Wang Ping'an stayed perfectly calm. A moment later, the manager got through. He explained everything exactly as it happened and gave Wang Ping'an's name. General Manager Liu says he'll assign someone to handle this directly. But is the investment real? Of course it's true. Huiyuan isn't listed yet, but in 2 years that'll change. Once it goes public, the stock will rebound, and the shares I hold now will be worth a whole lot more. Invest now, and while the profit looks small at first, down the road we're not just talking 10 million. The assistant stepped forward. Just give him a moment. Mr. Yang is in town on business. He'll be right back. Yang Xiaofei hurried out of the room and motioned for tea to be served to Chen Cheng and the others. He didn't return until after 9 that night, sweeping in with his entourage. Sorry to keep you waiting. You're too kind. I'm sure you already know why I'm here. It might not be a huge sum, but I can keep adding to it. Chen Cheng explained that his food business was just getting off the ground, so the most he could put in right now was 10 million. No problem, but you should think this through. 10 million is a drop in the bucket for our group. Huiyuan is valued at several billion. We don't need the capital. Mr. Yang told Chen Cheng straight up that his investment would probably buy him only a fraction of a % of the shares. I'm still in. Worst case, I'll write you an IOU. Chen Cheng didn't blink. He made it clear he was confident in Huiyuan's future, and that he had a new idea. Mr. Yang paused for a beat, then recovered. Let's hear it. What's the idea? Most juices on the market aren't 100% natural. Some have as little as 3% real juice. What if we launched a product with 30% juice content? Chen Cheng already had plenty of fruit suppliers. He could start a pilot program in this city, and if the response was strong, they'd scale it up. He picked up an apple that had just been washed and offered it to Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang didn't stand on ceremony. He took a bite. The apple was fragrant and surprisingly sweet. This fruit is as good as any red Fuji, he said with certainty, but to greenlight the plan, he'd still need the board's approval. That's why I came to you, Chen Cheng said. I want you to make the call, even if it's just a sub-brand or a project department. I need a stake in it. This is my only shot. I have to go all in. Mr. Yang considered for a moment. Here's what I'll do. I'll give you a chance. If you can build that brand and outsell our flagship orange juice within a month, I'll give you 5% equity, but you cover all the costs yourself. That was Chen Cheng's shot. Whether he hit the mark was up to him. If he failed, He could walk away cleaned, no real risk. Deal. Chen Cheng got Mr. Yang's phone number. After a short follow-up, he had the authorization from Huiyuan, and just like that, his title changed. He was now the regional manager. You agreed to that? You're trying to build a whole brand in under 2 weeks. Are you insane? Zhu Kaiyang had initially thought Chen Cheng was sharp, that every move he made was calculated. Now he wasn't so sure. Chen Cheng was way too impulsive. I'm not insane, this is the best chance I'll ever get. By next year, Huiyuan won't be the same company. Chen Cheng knew that 2 beverage giants were planning to consolidate the market by year end. By then, his 10 million would double. And when the IPO came, he'd have another year to buy up basic shares. Who'd end up on the bottom then was anybody's guess. With the Huiyuan distribution rights, he stocked all 13 of his convenience stores with their products. Another profit stream. Fresh vegetables were already tagged with his own labels, and the barcodes were all set, ready to go. That's a lot of product. Are we really going to park our pies and nuts here? Zhu Kaiyang asked. He knew storefront location was key. A good spot made sure customers saw what they wanted right away. Exactly, but we're not relying on location alone. Chen Cheng pointed toward the produce section in the distance. That's what's really going to pull people in. No other fruit and vegetable market had opened in the countryside yet. Chen Cheng planned to be the first. Before Sugu even launched, Chen Cheng's store had already started a massive advertising blitz. The key distributors and wholesalers were his marketing team. Their networks were wide. When they knew a supply was running short somewhere, they'd head there to restock. And that meant information traveled fast. What the hell is Chen Cheng doing? Opening a bunch of small supermarkets. And Xiong was baffled when he heard the news. Was the guy deliberately picking a fight? Ignore him. Our scale is bigger. We're laying the groundwork for year-end. Profit doesn't matter right now. Ma's orders came down fast. He didn't want any department focused on making money. He wanted consumers to know their model. How are the flyers coming? I already bought the firecrackers. Feng Yilu called Chen Cheng early that morning. Chen Cheng had gone to the print shop and brought along a whole truck. They were about to start deliveries, and without vehicles, they'd be stuck. On my way back, hold off on the firecrackers until my flyers arrive. Chen Cheng told Feng Yilu to put every factory worker on the clock today. No days off, triple overtime. Got it. I'll tell them. Let me put old Ju on. Feng Yilu passed the phone. He didn't have much time. He was in charge of the firecrackers, and every store needed a visit. Hello, I've got the people rounded up to hand out flyers. $20 a day per person. Plenty of takers. Perfect. I'll be there in about 5 minutes. Meet me out front. With time tight, Chen Cheng started tossing boxes of flyers off the truck. Each was just a single sheet, but color prints were still a novelty for most people. Everyone into position. 13 stores. Shouldn't be too hard for you. Chen Cheng then directed the truck to load up and headed out to the countryside. The 13 convenience stores weren't large, but they were well placed. All in the towns. He was going to the village now because he'd just snapped up a prime location. It had originally been Kui Xiaoqi's channel, but Chen Cheng had bought it out. Firecrackers popped in near unison. The massive distribution blitz hit right at morning rush hour before most people were even out of bed. Crowds gathered outside, all lining up for Wang Ping'an's merchandise. What's this? A flyer? Late arrivals craned their necks, trying to read whatever was printed on those sheets. The moment they spotted the items and prices, they caught on fast. The old convenience store is a supermarket now. It's got everything, and the prices are way lower than retail. That wasn't just one customer talking. At the store where Wang Ping'an stood, the foot traffic nearly shoved him out the door. We're short on cashiers, hit a temp agency and hire more and get our employee system up and running. Feng got the call from Wang Ping'an and rushed over immediately. He wasn't relaxed. Training people and getting them up to speed took serious time. Meanwhile, when the first few Ping'an locations opened, customers barely trickled in. They had almost zero interest in buying. Wang Ping'an's strategy had completely thrown them off. With prices this high, I'd rather go to Ping'an supermarket. But shoppers took one look at the shelf prices there and balked. It felt like robbery. How's the test run? Business blowing up yet? General Manager Liu called Li Changyu.as the flagship location. Li Changyu's store was supposed to pull in hundreds of sales. It's not blowing up. Dead in the water, less than 1,000 in revenue after 2 hours. Li Changyu shut his eyes in despair. He knew his days as regional manager were numbered. And it wasn't just that one Ping'an fruit and vegetable market. Every other store was the same, plenty of lookers, zero buyers. Meanwhile, at Wang Ping'an's place, they needed to restock after just half a day. And that was with employees moving inventory non-stop. I gotta hand it to you. You completely wrecked General Manager Liu's plan. Feng exhaled. He had to admit he was wrong about Wang Ping'an. Hang on, Ping'an might be backing off for now, but they've got deep pockets. They won't fold that easily. Wang Ping'an knew exactly what Ping'an's next move would be. It was all groundwork for the big supermarket launch next year. This was just to get customers familiar with the model. The model was easy to systemize, but price was the real key. With their massive order volumes, no food supplier could afford to charge them premium rates. So how do you plan to boost the membership system's sales? And can you really scrape together 10 million? Feng was worried. Wang Ping'an couldn't always control the situation. I'll find the 10 million. But honestly, I'm not ready to let those shares go. He meant it. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he wouldn't touch his original stake. Selling off his Shun Group stock would mean losing a serious chunk of money. So for now, he had to find other ways to generate cash. The best option, buy directly into Ping'an and become a major shareholder. That would bypass all the headaches and even pull Ping'an's timeline forward by 6 months. Looks like we'll have to wait until General Manager Liu blows a gasket before we can sort this out. Wang Ping'an sighed and glanced at his phone. His current stock holdings totaled 16 million. He had money in his account, just not the kind he actually wanted. If he could, he'd throw in 10 million right now to drive the stock price up. But there was a catch: he couldn't sell anytime soon. Too many people had their eyes on this dark horse stock. He could still buy shares, but the price had already shot up tenfold. By the way, what about that Murdoch media talent you recommended last time? I need to meet him now. Wang Ping'an looked at Wang Fengbo, who immediately dropped everything and rushed over. Honestly, all this shouting was wearing him out. He's not here yet. Didn't have enough money for the trip, so he can only come next month. Wang Fengbo gave an awkward smile. Some things, apparently, couldn't be avoided. This one can make it. Get his bank account. I'll wire him the money. Tell him to get here immediately. Wang Ping'an already had a blueprint in his head. He knew exactly what mattered most. If he could build a dedicated stock trading platform, one that fed real-time market data and offered custodial services, he could raise funds ahead of time as long as the platform was reliable and linked right to their accounts. He could swap that digital money for real capital before it ever became cash. Brother Wang, he wants to talk to you here. Wang Fengbo handed over his phone. A lazy voice drawled through the line. Hey, This is Wang Ping'an. I want to bring you on to build a new stock trading platform. I need a system that covers all stock categories and personal accounts. Wang Ping'an knew the market. Nobody was using peer-to-peer models in software development yet, so if he could get this app built first, he could dominate quickly, and it wouldn't be long before flip phones were obsolete. Once touchscreens took over, everything would be even more intuitive. How much do I get paid? That was the big question, and he had to ask. 2,000 a month. You in? Wang Ping'an smiled. That's how technical experts rolled. Offering that salary meant he wanted the guy to take charge. It saved him from dangling profit shares, a lot less hassle. Okay. I'm on my way. The guy didn't forget to give his bank account number. Wang Ping'an wired the first month's salary in advance. It was no big deal. He wasn't hurting for $2,000. Brother Wang, if that's settled, I'll get back to work. Wang Fengbo turned to leave, but Wang Ping'an grabbed his arm. Hang on. I've got something else. Wang Ping'an asked how his sales team was coming along. Wang Fengbo pressed his lips tight. 4 people, and I don't have the authority to pay them, so training's impossible right now. Wang Fengbo laid it out plain. Without capital, he couldn't make a thing work. This was simple. Wang Ping'an smiled faintly. Technical problems, he had no answers there, but personnel, that he could handle. He waved Wang Chong over. You handle your people. I handle the results. Hit the numbers, you get paid. That's how sales works. He paused, letting the weight of his next words sink in. Of course, if you can't figure out sales, I'll fold your department into your friend's back-end development team. No second chances, no proving yourselves later. Got it? Just this product? Wang Chong asked. I'll take care of it. Wang Chong was convinced his silver tongue could work miracles. What he didn't realize was that he was about to cause Wang Ping'an a very serious headache. One man's luck was another man's disaster, and right now, the most miserable man in the room was Huang Baichuan. Chairman put the pressure on me. I don't have the capital to go after Wang Ping'an anymore. That bastard went way too far. He stormed into Wang Ping'an's factory and kicked the door open without a word. Well, someone woke up angry. Feng Yang glared at him. This doesn't concern you. Move. Huang Baichuan was already pulling his fist back, ready to swing. Inside the office, Wang Ping'an didn't bother getting up. He told Huang Baichuan to wait by the door until he was finished with his business, then he'd come out. There was no business. He was just sitting there, smoking. Bro, isn't this a bad idea? If Huang Baichuan figures out we're just smoking in here, he's gonna lose it. Li Changyu stubbed out his cigarette, worried. Nothing wrong with it. Let him cool his heels outside for 20 minutes. Wang Ping'an closed his eyes. He needed the break. 20 minutes could reshape a furious man's entire mindset. When Huang Baichuan finally shoved the door open, the anger was still there, but the moment he saw Wang Ping'an, he couldn't find the words. You've been standing out there a while, thirsty. I've got tea ready. Cigarettes too, help yourself. Wang Ping'an smiled and gestured for him to sit. He didn't like people looming over him. Wang Ping'an, what the hell were you thinking? Do you have any idea how much you cost the Cryan conglomerate? Huang Baichuan couldn't even hold on to his anger. He was in too deep a hole. I don't know what you lost. A company your size, how could I possibly tank your market? Wang Ping'an's smile stayed in place. He told Huang Baichuan to take a hard look at his own problems. It all started with that newspaper article. Someone inside your company leaked it. If that report hadn't come out, do you really think anyone would have known your plan? Huang Baichuan froze. That thought hadn't crossed his mind. Then Wang Ping'an gave him another push. The fact that chairman wasn't pressing charges said everything. Wang Ping'an had been too worked up to connect the dots. Now, the picture was pretty clear. You're right. I've been turning it over. It's not your fault. It's an internal problem. Wang Ping'an took the out, his tone shifting to something almost polite. Wang Ping'an waved it off. He didn't care about apologies, but there was one thing they needed to get straight: the Cryan conglomerate's future direction. If you're still dead set on breaking into the rural market, let me tell you right now, that's a mistake. Focus on the cities. Once the cities are covered, everything else barely matters. Wang Ping'an stared at him, stunned. Those were the exact conclusions the group had just reached internally. How the hell did Wang Ping'an know? Of course, I've got plenty of suggestions I'd like Chairman to discuss with me. As for whether the Cryan conglomerate lives or dies, I think I've got some say in that. With that, Wang Ping'an warned him to keep everything from today strictly confidential. He didn't want to offend Chairman. Wang Ping'an walked out in a daze. It took him a long time to process what he'd heard. Wang Ping'an had his own fears. That line about not wanting to offend, it revealed exactly where his head was at. Chairman, I just saw Wang Ping'an. A half-hour conversation followed. Chairman had Wang Ping'an investigated thoroughly and finally understood why the man talked that way. Feng Yang had teamed up with him, and their vision stretched that far. Set up a meeting. I want to see Wang Ping'an tomorrow. Chairman glanced at his secretary, straightened his jacket, and walked out. On the other side of town, in the finance office of the factory, Li Changyu was crunching the day's sales. The total hit 178,000. That's way too low. We've got 13 stores, and the volume's pathetic. Wang Ping'an frowned. The number didn't add up. He asked Li Changyu if he'd miscalculated. Oh yeah, I messed up. That's the net profit, sorry. Li Changyu laughed awkwardly. He'd mixed up revenue and profit. That's more like it. Net profit will keep climbing for the next 3 to 5 days, then level off. Eventually it'll drop. Wang Ping'an knew every industry had a buffer period. He couldn't afford to trip over that landmine. The fix was simple: stimulate consumption, get people buying what they could actually afford. Here's the plan. I'm heading into the city to look at some storefronts. With 178,000, he could rent 10 one-year leases. He needed to move fast and get ahead of the competition. What's the rush? That's company money. Feng Yang chased after him. Wang Ping'an gave an awkward smile and explained he was just borrowing an investment. He'd pay it back soon. No need to worry about him doing anything illegal. That was completely out of the question. I'm going with you. If I catch you pulling something shady, I won't let it slide. Feng Yang swung onto his bike and motioned for Wang Ping'an to get on. This time, he'd pedal. In a couple weeks, we'll get a car, then we can actually get around. This bike's range is way too small. Wang Ping'an complained as he climbed on behind him. So where do you think this city's headed? Where's the real development going to happen? Wang Ping'an asked Feng Yang, who sat in front of him on the bike. You couldn't make a move without understanding the terrain. The current business district is basically the future downtown core. Right here, Feng Yang said, pulling the bike to a stop. The storefronts and shopping streets in front of them were all fully developed, hard to replace, and no other location would see any real development in the next 5 years. There was no second option. No, I'm telling you, things are heading south from here. Haven't you noticed the roads are only 2 lanes? Wang Ping'an gave a faint smile. With only 2 lanes, this place couldn't grow. Even if you tore everything down, no developer could afford to buy out the existing storefronts. So the focus would have to shift. South was the best bet. And 3 years from now, that's exactly what would happen, and no one would see it coming. The South would become the city's entire economic development zone, and from it, The future central business district would rise. Let's skip this area. Go check out the south side. Wang Ping'an explained that if they handled the south operation well, they wouldn't lose any business. Plus, the south was dirt cheap right now, rent was practically nothing, and buying was more than doable. Fine. The money's in your hands, you call the shots. The truth was, even with 100 reasons, Feng Yang wouldn't have bought in the south. That area was a dump. Messy, barely any people. Just transport trucks rolling through all day, no commuters, no foot traffic. Hey boss, is this place for rent or for sale? Wang Ping'an had spotted a few storefronts. He didn't know if this decision would change anything, but based on the current setup, this was probably the spot. For the shop owner started, then jumped up, realizing someone was actually interested. He offered Wang Ping'an a cigarette, poured tea, acting more like he was the one asking for a favor. No need for all that, we just want to ask a few questions. If it looks good, we'd love to talk more. Wang Ping'an took the cigarette, a basic courtesy. Rent here runs a little over 1,000 a year. You know, location. 1,000, Wang Ping'an almost choked. Did this guy think he was an idiot? Take the man's cigarette. And he thinks he can gouge you. They'd try to fleece anyone who walked through the door. I checked around before coming. Even if someone rents here, it's a few hundred a year, so I'm interested in buying outright. Wang Ping'an laid out the math. At the going rate, 800 per square meter. This place had about 100 square meters of floor space, and he was pricing it as commercial property. Yeah, you're right. So that makes this place 80,000, right? The owner couldn't argue. It was 80,000. And honestly, in this location, even at 80,000, nobody was buying. Now that he had Wang Ping'an in front of him, he couldn't let him walk. He started making concessions. Tell you what. I won't play hardball. I've got my eye on 4 storefronts. If you can connect me with the owners, I'll throw in an extra 1,000 as a finder's fee. Wang Ping'an said it casually, claiming he just needed storage space because his suburban place was inconvenient. The owner lit up. Who wouldn't want a free $1,000? He immediately said he had connections and started making calls. 2 larger storefronts at 80,000 each. The small one was cheap, only 30 square meters, maybe good for a convenience store. That one was a lot less. 188,000. I'll make it an even 190. Make it happen, and we sign right now. Wang Ping'an knew exactly how much was in his bank account. He had to play it cool. If he flashed too much cash, the guy would jack up the price. He needed to make it look like he didn't have much, so he called Dongni and asked to borrow a few thousand. Told him to meet on the south side. About half an hour later, Dongni showed up, out of breath. He'd thought Wang Ping'an needed cash for inventory. He never imagined the guy was buying real estate. Brother Wang, why here? There's no point at all. Dongni shook his head. This place has zero potential. You buy it, you're stuck with it. Just give me the cash. I'll pay you back. Wang Ping'an smiled and placed the few thousand Dongni handed over right on the counter. The deal was done, pending the current tenants moving out. You can come pick up the keys first thing tomorrow morning. We'll leave everything for you, the owner said, suddenly far more respectful. Wang Ping'an was his cash cow now. If the owner had known the area would explode in value in 3 years, he would have regretted it for the rest of his life. That evening, they grabbed dinner at a small street stall. They talked about a lot, future plans, city development, and mostly intel from Dongni's father-in-law. Brother, when your business gets big, we'll all ride your coattails. I'm grateful you're giving me a chance to earn, too, but I've been hearing whispers there's going to be a food safety crackdown soon. Dongni lowered his voice. That kind of ruthless enforcement had never happened before. The landscape was shifting. Thanks for the heads up, Dongni. Any idea when exactly? Wang Ping'an didn't know the exact date. He only knew roughly that within 3 months, there'd be planning and enforcement. end of the month after next. Around the 29th. Dongni said it took serious effort to dig up that info. If his own interests weren't tangled up in it, he wouldn't have breathed a word that I'll treat you to proper tea another day, that I'll pay you back tomorrow. Wang Ping'an smiled that he didn't swipe his card right away. Couldn't tip his hand. Truth was, food safety always mattered, factory or production line. You couldn't cut corners anywhere. People used to slack on it, but times were changing fast that if you weren't careful, you'd ruin your own brand. You heard what Dongni said. What's the plan? We've never really focused on this, Feng Yang said, sounding worried. This had to be their top priority. Wang Feng stood before the assembled workers, his voice carrying across the factory floor. Let's keep this brief. We're answering the call and getting in line. Li Zhengwu says food safety is the priority, so that's where we start. He laid out the new rules. Every plant policy was now mandatory. Everyone would show up clean and presentable. No exceptions. Li Zhengwu nodded. Since you've already thought it through, let's move. The assembly line needs reworking anyway. The next morning, a shipment arrived. Brand new sanitary jumpsuits, plastic gloves, and a full sanitizing station installed right at the workshop entrance. Massive containers of room temperature sanitizer followed. The workers stared. They'd never seen anything like it. We're adopting the same standards foreign companies use, Li Zhengwu said. It's the only way to guarantee our quality passes any inspection, and starting today, you'll all learn how to shut down and clean every single day. He tossed a pair of gloves to Wang Feng and announced he would personally teach everyone how to maintain and scrub the machinery. It was all physical labor. When he first suggested it, nobody looked thrilled. I'm not being strict just to be strict. The only way this factory survives is if we do things right. He got them moving. They organized and sorted everything on the production line. Even if no product got made today, safety and hygiene came first. They started in the ingredient prep room, still set up in the old layout. Li Zhengwu thought it was too cramped, so he'd expanded with an extra warehouse. You can prep ingredients here just fine, but these carts need a deep clean. He told them to sanitize thoroughly, then rinse with clean water multiple times. Do it every single day, no exceptions, or bacteria would grow. He also inspected everyone's shoes. Starting that afternoon, they'd all swap them out for protective boots. And while we're on the subject, all production runs through this prep room. The customer manager already gave it a once-over, but every person on shift needs to learn how to do this themselves. With that, Li Zhengwu cut the machines and began scrubbing with methodical precision. It took a full hour. By the time he finished, you couldn't find a single stain on any machine from any angle. The floor was squeaky clean, squeegeed dry to a shine. 1 hour is all it takes to finish this whole room, so I'm going to ask every one of you to spend that hour at the end of each day doing exactly this. He explained that the hour would count as paid work time. They'd clock out an hour early to clean. That made everyone happy, but it also raised another issue. With production volume ramping up, how would they manage staffing? We have enough people for now, but we're about to switch to 2 shifts. That means hiring more workers. Li Zhengwu figured it was only fair to tell them ahead of time. They deserved to know where the company was headed. Day and night shifts will swap, Wang Feng said. Half of you will be assigned to nights, alternating every 2 weeks, and this week, we're holding assessments for workshop supervisor and line leader positions. Anyone with solid operating procedures and high test scores gets a shot at promotion. He laid out the changes with a calm, steady tone. The workers were clearly excited. These were all veteran employees, and a promotion was the fastest path to a raise. There will be penalties too, Wang Feng continued. If you don't follow operating procedures while using the machines, I'll dock your pay first time, 5 yuan second time, 50 yuan, and an official warning. He scanned the room. 3 warnings and you get demoted. If you're a regular worker, you'll be fired. He didn't have to remind them that labor was cheap out there. A little tightening was necessary, or people would just coast. The room went dead quiet the moment he finished. Don't stress too much, Li Zhengwu said, breaking the silence. We're playing the long game here. This is what we have to do if we want to last. He wrapped up the meeting and dismissed them. From this point forward, he'd be pushing production and making unannounced rounds. It paid off. After just 3 hours, the results were undeniable. Everyone's motivation ignited. In a single morning, they'd produced what used to take half a day. Li Zhengwu hadn't expected that, but he'd take it. Hey, let's set up a staff canteen, he said to Wang Feng. We'll run it ourselves and cover their meals. He added there was no reason to skimp on food. Every meal should have meat. I feel like working here could actually make a person fat, Wang Feng said with a dry laugh. Forget meat every meal. Getting an egg every day would make a lot of people jealous. Are we really doing all this? Li Zhengwu shot him a look, somewhere between amused and damn proud. Of course we are. You think I was lying? This was day 2 of his new rollout. Matching day 1's revenue would depend on efficiency. What he hadn't anticipated was how well the morning's limited supply marketing had worked. After they'd sold out their stock, customers were actually lining up outside the factory gates. They wanted to be first in line for fresh fruits, vegetables, and snacks. Clearly, demand was already outpacing supply. That Wang Qiong kid is something else, Wang Feng said, pointing at the delivery team outside. The guy had printed a stack of billboards and was driving them all over town. His promotional push is seriously on point. I knew he had some clever move up his sleeve. He always manages to surprise me. A swell of satisfaction settled in Li Zhengwu's chest. He understood marketing well enough, but if he had to handle everything alone, they'd never grow. And it was true. He'd watched everyone's progress over the past few days, including Feng Yang's. The guy hadn't cracked a book in years, and now he was diving headfirst into accounting, studying while eating, while drinking tea. I didn't get much schooling. I'm starting from scratch with all this, Feng Yang told him firmly, like he was afraid Li Zhengwu would think he was useless. But I won't fall behind, brother. Even if you end up with nothing, I'll take care of you for life. Keep it up. Having a straightforward guy like that handling the books was a huge relief. Since the factory opened, there hadn't been a single accounting problem. That thought reminded him of the call he'd gotten earlier. Some boss Wang wanted to see him. The timing was about right. He'd bring Wang Feng along so they could talk face to face. Boss Wang wants to see you, Wang Feng said, hesitating. He'd been poached from that very boss, so he felt a pinch of discomfort. Would it be awkward for me to come along? Not awkward at all. If he didn't know what he had, that's his loss, not mine for picking up what he left behind. Li Zhengwu's voice was calm and certain. And I picked up gold. I'm not giving it back. The designated meeting place was the only 3-star hotel in the area. Truth be told, Chen Cheng had history with this place. He'd worked here part-time back in college. Years had passed. He wondered if the old boss was still around. Mr. Chen, Mr. Zhu, President Ma is waiting for you upstairs. A young man in a suit ushered them inside respectfully. The moment they stepped through the entrance, they heard snide remarks from behind. Well, if it isn't Chen Cheng here to apply for a waiter position today? A tall, skinny manager sneered. Sorry, I've got other things lined up. Looks like that waiter job's all yours. Chen Cheng's smile was calm, untouchable. His words set off a flurry of whispers and pointed fingers in the lobby. Chen Cheng, where do you get off? Do you even know where you are? No matter how high and mighty you think you are, this is where you came to beg for work. Don't like it? Fine, but don't run it down. The female receptionist, she'd been here for years, and remembered him well. He'd always acted like he had some grand plan, even bragging he'd only ever be a boss. Back when you said you'd be a boss, I figured that was a joke. They say clothes make the man, but even in a dragon robe, a cat is still a cat. Laughter rippled through the lobby. The young escort didn't step in. President Ma's instructions didn't include bailing Chen Cheng out of this mess. He'd have to handle it himself. You're actually not wrong, Chen Cheng said, his confidence unshaken. There was a time I thought I was just like you. He paused. But I'm not. People need vision. Wasting years on petty nonsense like this. You've all locked yourselves into your fates. He waved a dismissive hand. You're not worth my time. Oh yeah, let's see this famous vision of yours. The lobby manager stepped into his path. Are you here to eat or stay? Minimum spend or top tier? Private room or main hall? I already have an appointment. I won't need your help. Next time I need anything, I'll let you know ahead of time. Without another glance, Chen Cheng turned and headed upstairs. Wasting more breath on these people would only drag him down. Once they were gone, someone muttered quietly. Did you hear? Chen Cheng's meeting with some big boss. Something tells me he's in serious trouble. The boss looked pissed. Good. When they toss him out of that private room, none of you help him up. The lobby manager immediately started handing out assignments. All they had to do was watch with a smile. When Chen Cheng pushed open the door, he saw President Ma. The man was much younger than he'd expected. Their last meeting was over a decade ago. He must be around 50 now. President Ma, good to see you. President Chen, you give me too much credit. Ma smiled and gestured for them to sit. One of you is my former subordinate, the other is a genius who nearly threw my plans into chaos. The dynamic between you two, not something to take lightly. Ma's tone was full of admiration, but the superiority was unmistakable. He was the chairman of Segu. After all, Chen Cheng was just the head of a small food factory, hardly in the same league. You're wrong, sir. Mr. Ju here was your subordinate, but now he's my deputy factory manager. We're on equal footing. Sometimes I even have to tread carefully around his mood. With those words, Chen Cheng instantly diffused the tension for Ju Kaiyang. He delivered it so smoothly it didn't feel forced. Fine. I didn't ask you here just to discuss the investment. I wanted to get to know you. Ma leaned back. There aren't many people who dare speak to me like this. He'd handpicked every regional manager himself. Seeing one of them lose so badly to Chen Cheng, he still couldn't figure out why. Tell me, what's going on in that head of yours? How did you take down Anxiang so easily? Simple. I think differently than they do. To put it bluntly, I've got nothing to lose. So I'm not afraid. Your industry is massive, big enough to crush me, but you have too many concerns. Chen Cheng explained that even with just one food factory, he'd stirred up chaos across the city. If he had 10, 100, the outcome would be obvious. By then, Segu wouldn't stand a chance. A monopoly on his own supply chain would be enough to make them choke. But he couldn't say all that out loud. If that sly old fox Ma caught wind of it, the acquisition would never go smoothly. So you've been gambling against us this entire time? Ma finally realized Chen Cheng's game. This kid always seemed to land on his feet. Turns out it was pure nerve. Not just against you. I'm also betting on Segu's future, whether you'll let me join so easily, or whether I might have misjudged you. Chen Cheng gave a faint smile and stopped there. Some things didn't need spelling out. Ma's expression tightened. Do you have any idea the consequences of speaking to me like that? Not exactly, but I do know that if you weren't interested in me, you wouldn't have agreed to meet. I see the dishes are already on the table. I'm sure you won't disappoint me. Every word Chen Cheng said cut straight to the bone. Ma was only a couple of decades older, but right now he felt like he was the one being led by the nose. All right, tell me what you have in mind. Ma made a gesture for him to speak freely. I keep it simple. Segu doesn't need new plans right now, it needs innovation. Only I can make Segu thrive in every market. Thrive in every market? Explain. Ma smiled, signaling him to stop dancing around. He hated being toyed with. Community stores, supermarkets, and small to medium commercial integrated outlets. Chen Cheng watched Ma's reaction closely. The chairman's expression tightened. Those were all internal strategies. Only a handful of top executives knew about them, and the supermarket and commercial integration concepts, Ma had never breathed a word to anyone. If it were you, how would you do it? Ma asked. For a moment, Wang Ping'an could feel Boss Wang's burning gaze. If he wasn't mistaken, he just hooked him. Now came the final push point. One more, firm enough, and everything else would fall right into place. If it were up to me, I'd put the community stores and the supermarkets right in the commercial district, and one in every town center, of course. Wang Ping'an didn't need to spell it out. One location each was plenty. Mind if I ask why you're capping the numbers so tight? We can afford to open more. Boss Wang made it clear. His pockets were deep. His budget blew past those numbers by a mile. You can't swallow a whole cow in one bite. Do you really know what drives buying habits? Can you guarantee you won't end up with dead stock? What happens when sales drop and inventory starts expiring? Wang Ping'an laid it out. If it were his call, one store in the town center, one in the city center, that way everyone had easy access. Even people from the countryside would make the trip. It created a sense of exclusivity. Of course, if you want to get into the weeds, talk to old Feng. He handles the details. The mention of Feng Yang made Boss Wang's head ache. He still regretted icing out that whole team back then. The truth was, Feng Yang had been the core of his marketing strategy. After he left, no one could fill his shoes. Feng, you're Wang Ping'an's right hand now. I won't force you, but if you say yes, the marketing director role at Pingxing is yours. That was a sweet deal. The marketing director at Pingxing headquarters controlled all sourcing and procurement. People spent years angling for that position. Boss Wang was clearly pulling out all the stops. Feng Yang smiled but didn't agree right away. I appreciate the offer, Boss Wang, but I don't want to leave Wang Ping'an. He's got something I've never seen in anyone else. He couldn't quite name it, but it made him feel warm. Gave him a real sense of drive. Haha. I knew you wouldn't come back. Fine. I'll make the call. I'm approving all the equity you proposed earlier, but only as free shares. Boss Wang clapped his hands. Decision made. No, we want free shares, but we also want paid shares. Wang Ping'an held his ground. If it was only free shares, they might as well let Feng take that marketing director job right now. The two of them went back and forth for a solid 5 or 6 minutes before Boss Wang finally relented. Truth was, he'd been ready to give in from the start. The whole conversation was just a test for Wang Ping'an. Here's the equity agreement. It's been ready for a while, sign it. Wang Ping'an scanned the document, then handed it to Feng Yang. Feng Yang hesitated for a second, then nodded. No issues. I'm signing. As of now, we own 5% of Pingxing. Around the table, no one questioned why Pingxing was losing market share or what had gone wrong. To Boss Wang, these two young men were worth far more than 5%. With them on board, every problem would get solved. Let's get the food started. I'll make an exception and have a drink tonight. Just as the floor manager and head waiter began bringing in the dishes, they spotted Wang Ping'an sitting there with a blank expression. Well, if it isn't Wang Ping'an, what are you doing here? Did Boss Wang chew you out? Given the look on Wang Ping'an's face, that had to be it. The floor manager had no idea Wang Ping'an only looked that way because he didn't want to drink, but Wang Ping'an hadn't expected the floor manager to be so bold, almost arrogant. Sorry, Boss Wang, but this guy's a con artist. He used to be a waiter here. Then he spent all day loafing around, living off his family. I've heard he has a violent streak. The floor manager wouldn't have dared say any of that if he hadn't overheard raised voices from the private room earlier. Besides, this was the only 3-star hotel in town, and he was the only floor manager. Plenty of people were afraid to cross him. Young man, I think you've got this wrong. Wang Ping'an is no waiter. Boss Wang smiled, knowingly. He was too sharp to buy that story. You don't know the whole story. I've heard he's caused all kinds of trouble. How about we teach him a lesson today? What do you say? The floor manager leaned in, practically pressing his face toward Boss Wang's. His sycophantic tone made everyone stare in disbelief. Go ahead. I've got no objection. But just as the floor manager was about to make his move, a young man hurried into the room. The moment Feng Yang saw him, his heart settled. He finally understood why Wang Ping'an had looked so calm through all the provocations. He'd already known how this would play out. Who the hell dares insult my brother here? It was Mohammed, one of the hotel's shareholders. He hadn't been bothered earlier, but when his staff started gossiping, he'd caught wind of what was happening. Your brother, President Mohammed, since when did you get so close to Boss Wang? The floor manager laughed nervously, quickly pulling over a chair for Mohammed to sit. This was his direct boss. Mohammed held 30% of the hotel. After the owner, he was the biggest shareholder. No one crossed him. My brother is Wang Ping'an. CEO Wang. Mohammed shoved the chair aside and jabbed a finger at the floor manager. Get the hell out of here. Hold on, President Mohammed, you should have seen it. This manager was about to put his hands on me. He actually threatened me. Wang Ping'an wasn't about to waste this chance. If he could use Mohammed to get some payback, why bother dirtying his own hands? Sure enough, Mohammed's face twisted with anger. Without a second of hesitation, he slapped the floor manager hard across the face. Is that how you speak to CEO Wang? Apologize. The slap echoed through the room. The head waiter and the rest of the staff froze. The floor manager was a smooth operator. Never pissed off a boss in years, and now he'd been taken down by Wang Ping'an. I'm sorry. I can't hear you. Did you skip breakfast? Mohammed barked. I'm sorry, CEO Wang. I was wrong. The floor manager bowed deeply. He'd never imagined Wang Ping'an would get the better of him. Once that was handled, Mohammed waved a hand, telling them all to get lost. They were an eyesore. Brother, take your time eating with your friend. Today's meal is on me. Mo Yufar didn't bother Chen Cheng. He'd been around long enough to know exactly when to show up and when to make himself scarce. Chen Cheng was his lucky charm. Why hassle the guy? I didn't know you had a brother that loyal. Boss Ma let out a rare, genuine sigh, his pulse quickening with something close to respect. I always figured you were just some ordinary guy. I am ordinary, made plenty of mistakes, but starting now, I'm living different. Chen Cheng smiled. Everything I do from here on out comes down to one thing, making sure my wife and kids never have to worry about money again. That was it, nothing fancy. You're a straight shooter, come on, let's drink. 3 men, 2 bottles of liquor. They drank until they were satisfied. By the end, Boss Ma's secretary had to help him out. He slurred something about no one ever out drinking him before. You're already gone. Boss Ma. We'll catch up another time. Chen Cheng smiled and motioned for Zhu Kaiyang to get moving. It was late, time to head home and sleep. They couldn't go back to the factory reeking of booze, so they took their bikes for a ride. After a few minutes, the buzz faded. Chen Cheng hailed a taxi. Thanks for having my back there. Zhu Kaiyang's gratitude was real. If it weren't for you, I don't think I could have looked Boss Ma in the eye again. Without Chen Cheng standing up for him, he'd have been humiliated for life. I should be thanking you. You're the one holding things down at the factory. See you tomorrow. Chen Cheng waved him off and climbed into the taxi, telling the driver to take him home. Hold on, what are you doing? You're not coming back this afternoon? Zhu Kaiyang suddenly realized Chen Cheng was ditching work. Going home to my wife and kids. You're a bachelor, so you've got this covered. With that, Chen Cheng closed his eyes and pretended he was too drunk to function. But he wasn't. This body could hold its liquor like a pro. Never really got wasted. When he got home, Zhongyi stared at him, taking in the sharp smell of alcohol. What was he thinking, drinking like that? Chen Cheng, what's going on? Who are you drinking with? Before she could finish, Chen Cheng silenced her with a kiss. His mouth covered hers, stealing her breath. You reek of alcohol, and you're crushing me. Zhongyi tried to pull away, but she was no match for him. The kids are at school for once. We never get this chance. Without another word, Chen Cheng scooped her up and carried her into the bedroom. An hour later, Zhongyi stared at the man sprawled beside her, sound asleep. Her heart still raced, but he was out cold. She shrugged, a helpless little smile touching her lips. But this kind of life was good. 2 tears slipped down her cheeks. She was content with everything she had now. Ever since Chen Cheng changed, he wasn't the same man. He'd learned to be ambitious, to treat people right. Most importantly, he'd learned to come home. By dinner, someone had to wake him. He shuffled out and saw Zhongyi had not only picked up the kids but laid out a whole table of dishes. Daddy came home and went straight to sleep. Yu pouted, looking absolutely adorable. Come here, baby, let Daddy hug you. He rubbed his cheek against hers, making her giggle uncontrollably. My good Yu, I haven't seen you in forever. Daddy's scratchy. When he tasted the food, Chen Cheng decided his wife's cooking beat any 3-star restaurant. He'd never really tasted her food before. Looked like he was set for life. What are you grinning about? You seem really off today. Zhongyi eyed him, suspicious. She'd caught him laughing to himself more than once. Maybe we should have another one. Zhongyi blushed crimson. The 2 little ones immediately asked what another one meant. You're so inappropriate, saying that in front of the kids. Don't you have any shame? She stood and started clearing the dishes, figuring distance was her best move. When she came back after cleaning up, she saw Chen Cheng patiently helping the kids with their homework. She'd never seen that kind of patience from him before. The new Chen Cheng was really good. All right, you 2 little rascals, time to study on your own. I'm going to watch TV with your mom. He stretched, got up from the desk, and headed out. This time, the kids didn't make a peep. They just focused on their homework. What do you think will happen to us? Zhongyi lay curled in his arms, more affectionate than she'd ever allowed herself to be. Who knows what the future holds? Heaven brought you back to me, and I'm not letting go this time. Chen Cheng leaned down and kissed her forehead. The next morning, he dutifully dropped the kids off at school, then headed to the used car market. Back then, the car to get was a Santana. Nothing beat German engineering for durability. Looking for a car, boss? The dealer had an eye for customers. He'd spotted Chen Cheng the moment he walked in. The guy hadn't glanced at anything else. His eyes were locked on the Santanas. This is a 2003 Santana .8000. Fair price. Too expensive. First off, it's been repainted, and there are scratches. I'm not even going to ask if it's been flooded. 5000, tops. Chen Cheng popped the hood and gave it a once-over. Nothing suspicious, clear as day. Boss, look at the mileage. I'm telling you, no repaint, and a few scratches aren't a big deal. This is a solid car. The dealer looked pained. First customer of the day, and he'd hit a tough one. Bad luck. Chen Cheng didn't haggle. He walked over to another row of Santanas that he had time to pick. Everyone says your first car is important, and I'm no different. I can't afford new, but with used cars, it's all about mileage and body condition. You don't want to end up with a lemon. He finally settled on a jet black Santana. The frame was solid, no dings or scrapes, and the mileage was only a few thousand. This one's 7,000. Deal. When the dealer named the price, Chen Cheng grinned and agreed. 7,000 for practically a new car was a steal. And this Santana, he had a feeling it'd be with him for years. Totally worth it. President Ma is pushing everything up to tomorrow, Chen Cheng said, scanning his management team. That means a fleet of trucks will start shipping by noon. Everyone will have their ads by the morning after, at the latest. He paused. This was the reality. Now he had to hand out assignments. Based on Sugua's current market research, we've locked down two segments, food products and produce. The food side was familiar. President Ma already knew the details, and the rest of the team was up to speed. But the produce side, no one knew who the supplier was. That was Chen Cheng's fight. He had to secure that share himself. No way could he let Yi Long and President Ma cross paths. If those two made a deal, there'd be nothing left for him. Here's the plan. We negotiate a contract for Yi Long's industrial park. A 10-year deal, signed directly with him. He turned to Zhu Kaiyang. You'll handle it. Zhu Kaiyang let out a sigh. Why do I always get stuck with the hard cases? I really don't want to waste my breath on Yi Long. But even as he complained, he was already moving toward the door. Because Yi Long's reach was massive. If they lost the produce supply, they wouldn't just lose a dozen supermarkets. The produce chain was enormous, and they were the only ones who could maintain a stable channel. The strategy was to process everything through Chen Cheng's own factory, but of course, An Xiong had to be the one to propose it. Now that his relationship with President Ma had thawed, Chen Cheng's status as a shareholder was out in the open inside the group. Old Chen, why'd you make it so complicated? An Xiong sounded genuinely annoyed. If you'd done this sooner, we'd probably be making a lot more money right now. He hadn't gotten any real benefit from the whole mess. You're wrong about that. Chen Cheng's tone was calm. If I'd come forward earlier, it would have looked like surrender. President Ma wouldn't have respected me. He wasn't stupid. Without leverage, he'd never have been able to teach President Ma a lesson. Now he'd hit his target, directly. So what's your next move? I heard from the company, 2 days max. Every plan has to go live immediately. An Xiong felt a bolt of impulse. He wanted to jump ship and work for Chen Cheng. Sure, his salary was decent now, but Sugua had grown into a full-scale group. They didn't need him pushing hard anymore. Chen Cheng's small factory, on the other hand, had enormous potential. Once it was running, the growth would be limitless. I've got everything ready, Chen Cheng said with confidence. I'm just waiting for the right moment. He told An Xiong that in their current state, developing new products wasn't realistic, so the next move was expanding his sales channels. Of course, he still didn't have professional salespeople. That made growth a challenge. That's easy. An Xiong leaned forward. I've got channels. Give me the authorization. and I'll find a way to open up sales for EE Foods. He was planning to borrow Sugua's resources, but he didn't see the conflict. This would clash with the company's interests. Better not. If you were a freelancer, I'd ask for your help without a second thought, but you're a regional manager now. That's not the right play. Chen Cheng meant it. If President Ma found out, he'd be violating his duties as a shareholder, so the person to handle this wasn't An Xiong. Chen Cheng had someone else in mind, even if the guy was currently just working the townships. Get Wang Ping'an ready, tell him to bring his team to see me. The entire task landed on Wang Ping'an's shoulders, which made everything simpler. As long as he didn't screw up, Chen Cheng would have nothing to worry about. Mr. Chen, you wanted to see me? Wang Ping'an walked in with his sales crew, a bunch of young, green faces. Look at this map. Chen Cheng gestured toward a large display. Based on our current sales approach, which market do you think is the easiest to break into? He motioned for Wang Ping'an to step closer. He didn't need an answer right away. Every conclusion had to be solid. If they couldn't analyze it properly, even hands-on practice would be a waste. The city itself doesn't need a hard push, Wang Ping'an said. With the Sugua partnership, it's easy. He moved his finger to the provincial capital. But this place is worth a shot. The transportation's great for food sales, and the supply chain is relatively smooth. He selected 3 locations in total, all satellite cities radiating from the provincial capital. One of them was even in a neighboring province. Don't laugh, but geography is everything. Wang Ping'an traced the lines with his fingertip. We've already got a foothold in the provincial capital, but it's still just one city. This other city cuts into our province from the side. If we win that market, we can launch the food products successfully. He explained in detail. To crack the market open, they had to take the provincial capital and the neighboring province's key city first. And how do you plan to sell? Zhu Kaiyang cut in. Or rather, how do you plan to recruit suppliers? That was the critical question. Their channels were different from most. With food, you either waited for customers to come to you, or you pushed your own sales force to open the channels. Building partnerships with suppliers was the only way to move the products. Everything after that would depend on those supplier networks. For the early stage, I think we'll have to limit ourselves to shipping from here, Wang Ping'an said. Later on, we might need to expand the factory. Chen Cheng nodded. Young people, thinking along the same lines he did. Right. I've been considering setting up a factory, but not in the provincial capital. He smiled, just a little. Everything Wang Ping'an had just said was on point, and a lot of it matched his own thoughts. But there was one thing Wang Ping'an hadn't considered. 2 reasons ruled out the provincial capital. First, it was a first-tier city, or close enough. Labor costs and land values were a major factor. Second, there were too many restrictions. If anything went wrong, the regulations would come down hard, so they could only build the factory in this city. The other 2 locations could house supply warehouses. My transport team is almost ready. Once that's locked in, we can set up transfer stations anywhere in the country. Zhu Kaiyang snorted. Damn, your scheming is on a whole other level. I've never met anyone this shameless. For the supermarket chain's grand opening, Wang Ping'an found himself buried under the biggest wave of orders he'd ever seen, all because General Manager Liu had asked for his products personally. 1,000 jin per variety, every packaging option you carry. You've got the stock for that, Mr. Wang? The customer manager smiled and held out a cigarette. Wang Ping'an waved it off. Better to skip the smoking during work hours. Some situations required watching his image. 1,000 jin. I'll make it 1,000 kilograms if that's what you want. All 3 of his warehouses were packed to the ceiling. Shipping out this order wouldn't recover his investment instantly, but the payment would hit his account within 3 days. That was Liu's strategy. Of course, he needed to see if Wang Ping'an's products were really as unstoppable as they seemed. A supermarket was still a supermarket. The moment they started slashing prices below market rate, the whole city and every surrounding town lost its collective mind. People had never seen anything like it. Even the big trade marts couldn't generate this kind of frenzy. You see that? Our plan is working. Wait until you get a look at today's revenue. General Manager Liu smiled and ordered his entire marketing team to start crunching the numbers. They needed to identify which products had the highest demand so they could prioritize reorders. General Manager, Wang Ping'an's Ping'an Food Factory is completely cleaned out. Should we submit another order? What? 3 hours. There was no way snacks could move that fast. Wang Ping'an's goods are priced below market, so the rush is massive, and our benefits program is extremely generous. At both stores, even our own staff can't push through the crowds. The live feed flickered onto the screen. This was the direct result of stoking consumption. Honestly, it caught even General Manager Liu off guard. Double the order. No increase Wang Ping'an's shipment by 10 times. Every top executive at the chain was buzzing. Not a single one of their drinks or fresh produce items was moving as fast as Wang Ping'an's goods. They were flat out convinced he was the engine driving the entire operation. Bro, do you have any idea how much stock we shipped today? There's nothing left in the factory. Everything we produce gets hauled away the second it's packaged. Feng Yang stood there stunned. The project payments had already cleared. 1.3 million, total. This is only the appetizer. Don't forget, Liu still hasn't paid me for that first batch of 1,000 jin. Wang Ping'an allowed himself a thin smile. The margins were solid, but a saturation point was coming. If he wanted to keep making real money, he had to push into new channels. Breaking into other cities was the real priority. That evening, Wang Feng called 30 distributors wanted in. Naturally, the price they offered came in 2 mao above the supermarket rate. Fine, approve them all, have them sign the orders directly. We can use the transport team to ship tonight. Wang Ping'an never imagined one casual move could flip the entire city's supply chain upside down. Even the logistics company was taking off. Shipping fees are changing from here on out. I'm not covering it. Let the suppliers split the cost 50-50. Wang Ping'an explained this was their first time handling distribution. If they could clear this path now, they'd never have to worry about it again. Wang Feng's efficiency blew past Wang Ping'an's expectations. By the next day, the distributor count had jumped to 50. Even tiny corner shops were placing orders. If they wanted it, Wang Ping'an took it all. His reasoning was simple: every sale mattered. Besides, he was already planning to build his own warehouse. Wouldn't it be convenient if they came to pick up the goods themselves? Keep an eye on things the next couple of days, lock down a warehouse location. I'll head out and build the facility myself. Wang Ping'an said he was handing over full authority to Wang Feng this time. Just set up a transfer station. Everything else could rely on the transport team. By midnight, incoming funds had skyrocketed to an astonishing 2 million. A month ago, Feng Yang wouldn't have dared to dream of a number like that. Bro, I've never laid eyes on this much money. Are we millionaires now? He felt lightheaded. How did it happen so fast? Feng Yang wasn't the only one reeling. Li Changyu and the others had tears welling up. 2 million. They all understood exactly what it meant. It meant they'd already won this fight. As long as orders keep coming, I'll deliver anywhere. Tell them not to be scared of the challenges. If we keep pushing, we take this national. Shelf space across the city was slowly filling with Wang Ping'an's products. The audience wasn't massive yet, But at least they were making a name. Never heard of this stuff, must be some knockoff brand. A man in glasses sneered as he checked the production batch, locally made, some factory in a backwater town. Nothing worth looking at, that factory's going to die out anyway. Only clueless people believe there aren't quality issues. People always assumed rural goods were inferior, that products made out in the sticks would never amount to anything. Wang Ping'an begged to differ. As long as his reputation kept building and his funds held strong, he had zero doubt he could turn this entire region into his own manufacturing base. I just got word. A lot of factory owners are in full panic mode. You've moved too fast, and combined with the chain's pressure, they've lost their slice of the pie. Li Changyu had to hand it to Wang Ping'an. His strategy was brilliant. At least he'd cut his own losses early. Right now, the only ones walking away clean were Wang Ping'an's operation. Everyone else was probably scrambling to figure out how to auction off their assets. Within 12 hours, the smaller factories couldn't take the heat anymore. They started warily testing Wang Ping'an's stance. I'll say it once more. The price hasn't changed from before. If you think that's fair, sign the contract and collect your money. If not, let it rot in your hands. This time, Wang Ping'an's tone was rock solid. Why? Because none of these factories could stand against the chain's heavy backing. The chain's mature system included plenty of private label products and their own processing plants. They didn't need to beg these people for a thing. Besides, when the customer manager first tried to negotiate acquisitions, every single one of them had shut it down. Now that the situation had blown wide open, they had zero leverage left. The first one to request a meeting with Wang Ping'an was the owner of the Digital Industrial Park, who also happened to be the director of the most advanced machinery factory in town. Honestly, one look at that factory and Wang Ping'an was hooked. Forget whether the machines were fully equipped. The production line alone was worth the investment. So, Boss Wang, what price were you thinking? To be straight with you, I'm just running a food factory. I don't have sky-high standards. Wang Ping'an kept his tone casual and gestured for Wang Changsheng to lead the way. Right this way. You're too modest, Boss Wang, everyone here's heard of you. Wang Changsheng's a big shot. Wang Feng had come to push the deal through. He got straight to the point. What would you pay for the machinery plant? Same price as before. Your factory isn't that big, and the real value is in the machines. Equipment that'll be obsolete in 3 to 5 years isn't worth much. Wang Changsheng stuck to his offer, 300,000. If Wang Feng accepted, they could sign immediately. Hearing that, Wang Feng did the math in his head. His own estimate had been around $1 million, but that was before the Kirin Consortium moved in. If he didn't sell now, once the Kirin Consortium locked down all the business, nobody in town would come to him for machines anymore. That was the brutal truth. A single market shift could ripple through everything. Can you bump it up a little? You know my plant is different from the others. Even as he said it, Wang Feng couldn't believe he was lowering himself like this. 2 weeks ago, he wouldn't have bothered talking to Wang Changsheng at all. Dealing with these low-level bosses felt beneath him, an insult, but now, nobody was hotter than Wang Changsheng. If he sold to the Kirin Consortium, they'd bleed him dry. No negotiations. You need to understand, my offer is already generous. I could easily use this chance to pull the rug out from under you. Wang Changsheng spoke plainly, but he hadn't done that. He hadn't crushed any of the dozens of factories in town. Everyone noticed that. The truth was, Wang Changsheng didn't have the power to crush them. If he actually had that kind of muscle, he wouldn't waste time thinking about crushing anyone. Why wear yourself out when money could handle it? Better to save the brain cells. The more success a man had seen, the more he understood the bloody lessons behind it. Fine. Wang Feng slowly stood. He signed the contract with a respectful hand, selling the entire plant, machines and all, to Wang Changsheng for 300,000. The factory site itself was still his. If Wang Changsheng wanted the property rights, he'd have to pay for the land. I've already thought about that. It's just wasteland. I'll give you 10,000 for it. Wang Changsheng called for Feng Yang to bring the cash from accounting. He slapped 10,000 in cash right in front of Wang Feng. The remaining 300,000 he transferred by card. I'd appreciate it if you didn't mention this deal today, otherwise, a lot of people will come knocking on my door. That was a little manipulative. Wang Changsheng wasn't really worried about Wang Feng spilling the news. He was counting on it. Sure enough, within an hour, every factory owner knew Wang Changsheng was buying up plants at the same price as before. I'm telling you all, if you need to free up capital, move fast. I hear the Kirin Consortium is going after the rural market next. We won't stand a chance. Wang Feng wasn't wrong about the Kirin Consortium's plans, but he missed the most important detail. In every rural area, Wang Changsheng had already locked down the 13 best locations. Suddenly, Wang Changsheng had more people to deal with than he could handle. He had to visit each factory and take over, which was a hassle, but for his plan, what did a little exhaustion matter? Especially when this kind of price wouldn't come again. He spent every bit of his 1.3 million and nearly had to dip into his own pocket for the land. Brother, 1.3 million, just like that? Feng Yang was stunned. As he picked up the last stack of cash, he realized how fast money could flow. Yeah, think about how many factories your brother owns now. In front of Wang Changsheng lay all the acquisition contracts and land title transfer certificates. With those two things, he wasn't worried about any issues. Everything under his name meant legal consequences for anyone who tried to take it. Of course, to keep people from pulling any tricks, he'd already ordered all factories to change the door locks and told the workers to take leave. Now every factory in town is ours. Feng Yang was thrilled. This dreamlike world, he never wanted to wake up. There's one more that isn't ours yet, and I'm going to take it. That evening, Wang Changsheng bought a bunch of gifts and his own products and went knocking on Feng Mingdong's door. When the black Pegassi pulled up, Feng Mingdong shot it a blank look. He knew Wang Changsheng had just bought a car, a black Pegassi. What does Boss Wang want with me? If I'm not mistaken, we don't have any business together. Feng Mingdong leaned against the factory gate, making no move to invite him in. They were both businessmen. No need to dance around it. Boss Feng, look, I brought you some things. At least let me in for a cup of tea. Wang Changsheng gave a faint smile and stepped forward, but the other man blocked him, making it clear, no talk, no deal. That's not very friendly. I'm treating you like a brother here, and standing around like this is tiring, don't you think? We're not brothers, and don't pull your little tricks on me. I'd rather lose money than sell my factory to you. Feng Mingdong was blunt. He told Wang Changsheng to give up and stop bothering him. Hearing that, Wang Changsheng's expression shifted awkwardly. He said that wasn't what he meant. You've got me wrong. I wanted to sit down and have a real talk. Even if we skip the tea, let's go to the restaurant next door. Wang Changsheng grabbed Feng Mingdong by the arm and pulled him out. At the restaurant, he ordered a massive meal. Hey, boss, give me a bottle of Spirit of Life. Nothing a bottle of liquor couldn't solve. If one wasn't enough, two would do. Once the glasses were full of the strong liquor, Feng Mingdong's expression softened. He figured he just wouldn't agree to anything Wang Changsheng said. Whatever tricks the other man tried didn't matter. He had nothing to worry about anyway, might as well drink. Truth is, the moment I saw you, big brother, I felt like we should have met ages ago. Wang Changsheng stood up, raising his glass in a toast. I like hearing that, not bad at all. Feng Mingdong nodded and downed his drink in one go, no hesitation. After a few bites, Wang Ping'an started telling Feng Yang about his past. He had zero interest in talking business. No matter how badly the other man wanted to know the secrets behind his fortune and his food empire, Wang Ping'an gave him nothing. Instead, he poured out his whole life story, college, diving into the real world, not just the successes but every damn mistake along the way. Come on, don't beat yourself up. What's done is done. And look at you now, you're sitting pretty, aren't you? Feng Yang patted his shoulder, the raw emotion getting to him. I'm actually really fragile inside. That's why I'm telling you all this, big brother. Wang Ping'an waved the waiter over for another bottle. He was determined to drink until neither of them could stand. After a few rounds, Feng Yang threw his hands up in surrender. I can't. I seriously can't take another drop. Brother, you're looking down on me. I know I don't mean much to you, probably not even worth a damn in your eyes. Wang Ping'an filled his glass to the brim and announced that if Feng Yang wouldn't drink, he'd keep going alone. Deciding the glass was too small, he grabbed the bottle and started chugging straight from the neck. All right, I'll drink with you, brother. Feng Yang's resolve crumbled under the relentless pressure. The truth is, I'm not being unreasonable. I know you want to acquire our factory. You don't have to say it. I already know. I'll never sell, but I can give you 70% of the shares, for free. Feng Yang's voice grew steady. This factory was handed down from my father. The brand alone is generations of hard work. Even if I go bankrupt, I can't let it fall apart on my watch. Hearing that, Wang Ping'an sobered up fast. He hadn't expected Feng Yang to think like that. Was this a blessing in disguise? Before he could answer, Feng Yang stood, paid the bill, and led Wang Ping'an straight into the factory. This place doesn't compete with your business. More importantly, you can actually use it. I might walk away at any time, but as long as you promise not to abandon the brand, I don't care about the rest. Brother, that doesn't seem right, Wang Ping'an said, a trace of concern in his voice. He knew he'd already gotten into Feng Yang's head. He had to admit it. Playing the emotional card in the 21st century was a skill in itself, nothing wrong with it. Anyone who objects is a fool. Feng Yang immediately started drafting the contract, catching the other managers in the office off guard. Fine. Whoever says no is a fool. For my brother here, I accept. Wang Ping'an signed his name with visible reluctance, then designated the site as part of the industrial zone. The blueprint for a complete high-tech industrial park was taking shape. They just needed one final push. If the year-end battle went well, Wang Ping'an was confident they could accelerate the timeline by 5 years. These were all future trends. He was just speeding things up. Over the next few days, Wang Ping'an kept dropping by Feng Yang's place. Most of the time, they didn't talk about work. They talked about life. My background's different from yours and why family's been in business for 4 generations. We started with seasoning blends, but the brand is stuck in a small town. Show me. I don't even know what kind of blend you're making. Wang Ping'an was curious. If it had a legacy, it had to be good. Unlike the additive-loaded crap some shameless companies sold nowadays, that stuff wasn't fit for human consumption. Eat enough of it, and you'd have problems. It's 15 ground spices mixed together. I'm not afraid to show you the recipe. The problem is nobody wants to use traditional methods anymore. Sure enough, Wang Ping'an saw plenty of artisans sweating away with old-school techniques. Have you ever thought about switching things up? I mean, keep your brand but change the whole sales model. Wang Ping'an's suggestion caught Feng Yang off guard. He didn't get it at first. It's simple. Instead of just selling powder, you turn it into liquid or even solid form. Wang Ping'an told him about an old lady who made chili sauce. She was a powerhouse, took her seasoning all over the world. Feng Yang had never heard of her, though in a few years, That old lady would be worth hundreds of millions. Get me some water. Wang Ping'an poured water into the bowl of seasoning powder. The mixture thinned out at first, then quickly thickened into a sticky paste as he swirled his finger through it. Taste it. I just added water. Wang Ping'an nodded. Feng Yang dipped his finger in and tried it. One taste and he was completely sold. Damn, he'd never realized his seasoning had a second flavor. And all the guy did was add water, add a little oil, and you've got sauce. I guarantee it'll sell, frozen, jarred, it'll find a market. Wang Ping'an told him if he didn't believe it, they could test it. And if it worked, he had a second plan. Alright, let's test it. Feng Yang named the brand Wang Yong sauce, combining both their names. A little rustic, yeah, but it stood for their bond. And sure enough, on the very first day of trial marketing, the sauce took the city's seasoning market by storm. Restaurants alone placed thousands of orders. Plenty of business owners showed up asking for distribution rights. Brother Wang, your plan worked, we've got tens of thousands of orders. Feng Yang couldn't believe it. Wang Ping'an had revived his factory in a single day. He wouldn't have dared to dream this big. Keep this momentum going. Next month, I'm dropping a bombshell for you. Wang Ping'an knew sauce sales had a ceiling. The profit margin was tight, but if he wanted to scale up, he'd have to raise costs and improve ingredients. Getting everyone on board wouldn't be easy. He thought it over and dialed Li Changyu. Hey, Boss Wang, what's up? I'm in the middle of a shower. You coming over? Li Changyu was completely relaxed. Just supplying plastic to Wang Ping'an's operation was making him a fortune. And that was only the start. As far as Li Changyu was concerned, Wang Ping'an single-handedly kept his factory afloat. I mean it.do you know anyone at a glass factory? I need a ton of custom bottles, preferably made to order. Tang Xing straightened up fast and dragging his feet now. Chen Cheng wasn't someone you kept waiting. What kind of glass are we talking about? I know people. He rattled off an address and said he'd meet him there. When the Santana rolled up outside the factory, Chen Cheng squinted at the sign. Dawn-Craft Glass Factory. What kind of operation was this? You must be Boss Chen. I'm Xie, a friend of Tang Xing's factory manager. Xie. Good to meet you. Chen Cheng shook his hand and followed him inside. The place was mid-size. They mostly churned out liquor bottles and regular drinking glasses. Steady business, nothing fancy. So what are you looking for? Our thicknesses vary, and Mr. Tang mentioned custom work. Chen Cheng nodded and laid it out. He needed a wide-bodied bottle, 450 milliliters. The main surface had to be completely smooth, with embossed texture at the top and bottom. Not for looks.it made the bottle easier to grip. What about the cap material? Xie asked. Stainless steel's the usual choice. Light, aluminum. Light and airtight. Chen Cheng let a small smile slip. Aluminum formed an oxidation layer on contact with air, ideal for this. Done. They settled on 20 cents per bottle. Cap included. Good. Let's do a prototype from my design first. Chen Cheng grabbed paper and a pencil from the desk and started sketching. His lines were precise, every surface mapped down to the millimeter. With a ruler on hand, calculating thickness was simple. I see, Xie murmured. Thought you were making decorative cups or something. Now he understood. Probably fruit preserves. The bottle design was functional and clean. Want us to handle packaging? We can add printed labels. 0.5 cents extra per unit. 0.5 cents. That brought the total to a quarter per bottle. Chen Cheng could live with that, especially since he planned to sell the chili sauce for $5 a jar. 50 times cost. No one would believe he was that insane. You two all set? Tang Xing cut in. Listen, old Xie. Chen Cheng is my best brother. Give him a straight price. Do me a solid and drop the printing fee. Tang Xing added. Or I take my business somewhere else. Fine, fine. Whatever brother Tang says. 20 cents all in. You cover shipping. They moved to sign. Chen Cheng insisted on seeing a finished sample first. Going from blueprint to mold took about 30 minutes at that factory, decent speed. Still, he waited a full hour before he got his hands on the product. Take a look. This what you had in mind? Xie was proud of the work. The factory's name wasn't false advertising. Their quality control was tight. I'm satisfied. Let's proceed. I'll put down a deposit. Chen Cheng offered 50% upfront on an order of 10,000 bottles. 20,000 total. 10,000 deposit. He pulled out his bank card and paid on the spot. Once the transaction cleared, he took his copy of the contract. I'll reach out when they're ready. Thanks for the business, Boss Chen. Xie was happy. It wasn't just the order. Getting connected with Chen Cheng was the real score. That meant more easy money later. What are you cooking up now? Tang Xing asked, baffled. Don't tell me you're putting nuts in glass bottles. Don't even. I've been asking you to find me plastic bottles for weeks and you keep blowing me off. I ought to smack you. Chen Cheng explained the nuts needed plastic. Thick-skinned, big enough to pack in as many as possible. Well, look at that. One trip and we land another deal. So when you're loaded, you taking us out to celebrate? Tang Xing was curious. Chen Cheng had already made it. He could sit back and count his cash. Why keep grinding, handling everything himself? I've got stuff to do. Catch you later. Chen Cheng hit the gas and peeled out of the factory lot. He really was slammed. This era had no decent designers. Nobody could execute his product concepts the way he needed, and he hand-drew all his own packaging. Though honestly, Zhongyi could probably help him brainstorm if he asked. When he got home, he hauled a stack of drawing boards inside. Zhongyi raised an eyebrow. Wow, you setting up a studio in here? She hadn't touched those things in years. They felt foreign now. Your design work used to be incredible. Do owe me a favor? He pulled her into his arms. His wife couldn't say no. Could she? Fine, fine. First tell me what kind of favor. She picked up a board and selected a freshly sharpened pencil. I want to design plastic packaging for all the nuts. Dimensions are set. I just need you to handle the graphics. Her face fell. She'd never done anything like this before. Her husband's business was crushing the market. What if her design flopped and killed people's interest? Just try. I know your skills. You won't screw this up. He walked into the kitchen without waiting for an answer and started making dinner. Zhongyi sank so deep into her sketches she didn't even notice Chen Cheng had cooked an entire meal. It wasn't until the kids, Yu and Xiao Juo, started whining about being hungry that she realized she hadn't prepped a single thing. She stared at the table, stunned. Had Chen Cheng actually cooked this, or did he order takeout? Alright, everyone put your stuff down, time to eat. Chen Cheng carried the kids to the sink so they could wash their hands, then told them to grab bowls and chopsticks. Whoa, Dad's cooking looks so good. When Zhongyi picked up the brush again, it felt like reuniting with a friend she'd thought was gone for good. There was a time she'd loved painting more than anything. After she became a housewife, she knew she'd have to give up a lot of things. But she'd held on to this, stubborn and quiet. She looked up at Chen Cheng. Can I really pull this off? Even she wasn't sure. You can. I know you can. There is nothing my wife can't do. He said it like it was a fact, then jumped straight into their college memories. That year had been her peak, the year she'd won every award that mattered, and, somehow, it was also the year he'd won her over. Babe, think it over. I'll write you a list. He turned and walked to the bedroom. By the time he came back with the list, she was already in the zone. The sketch had gone from rough to impossibly detailed. Anyone looking at it would swear it was finished. What's wrong? Is it ugly? She set the pencil down slowly. Chen Cheng grabbed her hand. No, it's not ugly. This fits us. This is it. He made the call right then. Only a pencil sketch could capture that fresh, clean feeling, but This is just line art. You're not going to color it. She was confused. If this was the final product, she might as well not have drawn anything. Without the pursuit of perfection in basic product design, a brand wouldn't last. She argued her case, and in the end, she showed him the finished version. See? Different products need different colors. And you'd better make the product photography look good, too. She smiled, holding up the final drawing. It had so much more life than the sketch. Chen Cheng hadn't imagined she could pull it off so perfectly. Babe, I'm so lucky to have you. He pulled out a few more products, hoping she could help him brainstorm again. This time she didn't agree. She yawned and stretched. You think I'm a robot? I'm not doing this one. She headed for the bedroom. It wasn't that she didn't want to help. She just didn't think hand-drawn packaging made sense for these items. Think about it, these are all transparent packages. Customers can see the product right through them. But those others are in plastic bags or cardboard boxes. If they can't see what they're buying, they won't bite. Her idea was simple. Take real product photos, enhance them, blow them up, and print them on the packaging. More useful than any illustration, clear and straightforward. The next morning, Chen Cheng got all the packaging done. He went to Tangxing's plastic factory and had everything printed on plastic. Everything except the chili sauce. Glass jars wouldn't work with that material, it would look wrong, so he chose paper, and no matter the cost, he went with a dark-toned design. Why? Because it makes our product stand out, he said during the discussion with Feng Yui. I'm really curious what goes on inside your head. Sometimes I think you understand business better than anyone alive today. Feng Yui had a wild thought that Chen Cheng was the heir to some mega corporation. He didn't have the polish of a typical tycoon, but his instincts and his mind were something else entirely. I'll follow your lead. No objections, but we've never made chili sauce before. Feng Yui was a seasoning powder producer. Even the sauce had been Chen Cheng's invention, though the recipe was mostly water. That's where you're wrong. Think about it, what does your factory have the most of? Chen Cheng grinned. Chili peppers. Obviously. That's what made the flavor work. We don't need chili powder. We need chopped chili. Chen Cheng explained that the sauce still needed more liquid, because he wanted a dry-wet separation effect. Chili oil was the perfect substitute. And those two ingredients were the most abundant in a food factory. No changes necessary. Try it. See how it tastes. Chen Cheng handed him a spoon. Rice would have been better. Feng Yui stared at the red, oily paste in front of him and hesitated. Just taste it. It's not going to hurt you. It's all clean, quality ingredients. Chen Cheng shrugged. With a piece of steamed bun as backup, Feng Yui scooped a spoonful into his mouth. And damn, it worked. It was appetizing. He could taste the familiar base of his original seasoning, but beyond that, there was the refreshing kick of fresh peppers. In all his years of making seasonings, he'd never tasted anything like it. Chen Cheng had completely reimagined his formula. Not bad, really good. He couldn't stop praising it. Then he had the sauce passed around to the workers, making sure everyone on the production floor got a taste. What do you all think? The response was unanimous. Even workers who swore they never touched chili sauce couldn't resist this one. The flavor was too unique, nothing like the ground or pressed sauces. They knew real chili sauce should be bold and rich. Otherwise, it was just another condiment. The price difference would be huge. Chen Cheng was aiming for a sauce starting at $5. So what's our retail price? Feng Yui asked. It was the critical question. He'd hinted before but never gotten a clear answer. We sell it to distributors for $5. They can set the shelf price. Our factory price starts at $6. When the workers heard that number, they put down their tools. Why the sudden jump? Their original sauces sold for pennies. Because we're using glass jars with aluminum seals, that alone makes our sauce more premium than anything else on the market. Plus, we're branding it as an old-school artisan sauce, different from everything else out there. It made sense. Setting a high price was the only way to do the product justice. Good. Excellent point. I agree. Feng Yui gave Chen Cheng the green light. He was ready to see how this played out. Feng Yang had no choice but to bring up the last-minute advertisement swap. The sales numbers were decent, but once you factored in all the ad costs, the product was pricing itself out of the market. Not enough buyers were biting, and it was slowly killing their momentum. I know all that. That's why I changed the advertisement this time. Wang Ping'an set a small jar on the table between them. Take a good look. Feng Yang frowned at it. It's just a regular plastic bottle. You seriously plan on using something this ugly for the product? Look closer. Wang Ping'an peeled the backing off a printed sticker and pressed it onto the jar. The whole thing transformed in an instant. Then he scooped up a handful of seedlings and tucked them inside. Suddenly the packaging looked sleek, expensive. Damn. You're going all in on visual marketing. Feng Yang caught on fast. The way Wang Ping'an's mind worked was almost unsettling. If Feng Yang hadn't known what was actually inside, he would have been completely fooled. The product itself is pricey. For the cheaper options, we do small bags or even paper wraps, but the high-end goods need to sit in gift boxes or single-cell jars. Wang Ping'an explained that this was the only way to break into the market right now. His next move was to expand the product range. After comparing several options, seedlings performed okay, but flowers and plants carried a much higher price tag. Flowers have a bigger audience. They'll also be the main product for our composite materials push. Wang Ping'an told Feng Yang he wanted full hand-drawn illustrations on the next round of ads, each design with its own backstory. Show me what else you've got stashed away. Just so we're clear, sealing something doesn't keep it fresh forever. These products don't have a long shelf life. Everyone knew that. Storage was the real nightmare. Wang Ping'an didn't over-explain. He said he had a solid plan and would launch soon, ideally within the next few days. He wanted to see how far they could push the market. New policies were coming, and they could ride that wave of government support. He consolidated all his factories into one location. Since he owned them outright, he turned the entire industrial park into a high-tech hub. It's not just food factories, but every one of them serves my food business. That part is not up for debate. He pulled out the reports. Ping'an's sales were steady, but nowhere near what he'd projected. Show me the current advertisement. He hadn't checked personally because his team had been handling the factory pickups. Why are we using plastic bottles? They look cheap. Wang Ping'an stared at the sample. A big plastic bottle sold for just over $10. That wasn't his brand style at all. And with this confusion between old and new advertisement designs, what was the point of building a brand in the first place? Call them, tell them we're changing the advertisement. He waved a hand, then stopped himself. No better to go in person. Some things couldn't be handled over the phone. He needed eyes on every step. Boss Wang, you made it. I heard your sales are picking up. Li Changyo's grin stretched wide the second he spotted Wang Ping'an. Wang Ping'an was the backbone of the entire region's revenue. Sales, my ass. Why the hell didn't you consult me before switching the advertisement? You trying to run the brand straight into the ground. Wang Ping'an didn't hold back a single degree of heat. Li Changyu looked genuinely confused. Wang Ping'an, what's wrong? I don't follow. Wang Ping'an slammed the plastic bottle onto the floor. Li Changyu's face shifted as the situation clicked into place. So that was the problem. He'd been bracing for something else entirely. Relax. We were just trying to cut advertisement costs. You know we front the money. It's a margin issue. Lee Chang-yu didn't get to finish. I'm telling you right now. If Ping'an wants to survive another decade, you do it my way, otherwise, I'm done working with you. Wang Ping'an's tone left zero room for negotiation. He wasn't there to start drama. Everyone was just trying to earn a living, and no reason to hang yourself on one tree. Hearing that, Lee Chang-yu's posture softened. He stepped aside, made a quick call to his superiors, and got the green light. Full cooperation with Wang Ping'an. Starting now, the ball's in your court. Do whatever you think is best. Lee Chang-yu said all advertisement, filling, and sealing would be directed by Wang Ping'an, even the product design. Good, take me to your workshop. I want to design 2 different spec beverages. Wang Ping'an gestured for Lee Chang-yu to lead the way. No more polite small talk. The shift in Lee Chang-yu's attitude was obvious. Pressure from the top had landed hard. This was Wang Ping'an's opening if he played it right. The integration of Ping'an's 2 major product lines by the end of the year would give him the launchpad he needed. Once the stock market opened, he'd cash in even bigger. Switch everything to composite materials, and show me your current advertisement files. Wang Ping'an walked over to a programmer at a computer and asked for the design schematics. The eco-friendly material design in front of him was flawed. The opening was a disaster, a total pain to use. Change the opening, make it a round hole. Wang Ping'an had hated that type of advertisement in his past life. You always wound up spilling the damn drink. Even if some people managed it without a mess, plenty of others couldn't. A round opening solved the problem, even if it ate up a little more space. When the programmer hesitated, Lee Chang-yu clapped a hand on his shoulder and told him to follow Wang Ping'an's instructions. Once the composite material redesign was locked in, Wang Ping'an had the designer update the label. The original Ping'an juice became Ping'an 100% juice. That bold percentage made it stand out instantly from the old advertisement. Plus, the ingredient list and description screamed pure juice, not some watered-down sugar drink. What about our existing specs? We still going with the 1.5 liter? So the design and marketing teams were useless. Every single one of them. With a clown like General Manager Liu running the show, the subordinates were bound to be just as bad. They just sat around waiting for a free ride. If Wang Ping'an ever got real authority, he'd gut the whole department and start over. A large bottle kills our margins. We can't raise the price, and we can't afford to lower it. Wang Ping'an didn't blink. 2 sizes. A medium bottle and an extra large. Price them between $13 and $18. General Manager Liu squinted. That's barely a gap. Who's going to pay an extra $5 for a bigger bottle? Any sane person would just buy the large one. People who think they're getting a deal will grab the large one, Wang Ping'an said, but plenty of customers want portability. The medium bottle hits that sweet spot. He laid out the rest. Supermarkets and wholesale weren't enough. They had to push into restaurants, or the Chen Group's product would hemorrhage sales. One thing he didn't mention, the low-end market. The Chen Group had abandoned it entirely, and that was a mistake if he couldn't claw back that territory. All this was pointless. Fine, start production with your plan. We'll talk later. General Manager Liu pulled him aside and handed over an invitation. The higher-ups had insisted, you have to show up at this event. Every major boss and businessman in the city will be there. I'm counting on you to make our brand look good. Wang Ping'an understood immediately. General Manager Liu had a cute little scheme. He was nothing more than a sales representative, and now they wanted to toss him into a den of wolves. Sure enough, they'd introduce him as Chen Group's whatever, complete with some inflated title. Anyone with half a brain could see that his own food business and the Spirit of Life brand carried 10 times more weight in this city. Playing by their rules would be idiotic, sure, thanks. He smiled and took the invitation that he did need to go, just not only under that identity. The banquet was set for late evening, and the hotel's ballroom was already buzzing. The moment Wang Ping'an walked into the lobby, the reception was night and day from his last visit. The staff and manager practically tripped over themselves to fuss over him. "Come on, I'm just a regular guy, you don't have to act like this." He waved them off, genuinely uncomfortable that he hadn't expected the front desk to be so disgustingly obsequious. "Don't be so humble, brother, having you here is our honor. Old Jiang isn't around tonight, so let us take care of you." The lobby manager grabbed his arm like they were lifelong friends. When a man rises, everyone wants a piece. Wang Ping'an was high society now. Of course these people would cling like leeches. Nothing surprising there. A voice cut through the noise, loud and deliberate. "Oh, if it isn't General Manager Wang of Shun Group." Every head in the room turned. Wang Ping'an had no choice but to smile and nod. "Hello, I'm Wang Ping'an." After a quick exchange, a handful of bosses pulled him aside. They offered him a seat, passed him cigarettes, and got straight to business. "So, Mr. Wang, which hat are you wearing tonight?" Right on cue, Wang Ping'an had known this was coming. At least half the people in this room were waiting for him to trip over his own feet. "Officially, I'm here on behalf of my friend Mr. Feng Yang. So tonight I'm Shun Group's regional manager, but if any of you want to discuss business, feel free to find me afterward. I'm happy to talk in more detail." Smooth. He'd sidestepped the trap without breaking a sweat. "Ah, young Master Wang is a true prodigy. It's awe-inspiring. If I hadn't seen you with my own eyes, I'd have sworn you were a legend." The voice belonged to an older man with a white beard and gleaming eyes. "It was Li Changyu. You're too kind. I've just been lucky. Besides, I'm the youngest man in this room. I'll be counting on my seniors to show me the way." Wang Ping'an kept his response humble and measured. He had no intention of stealing anyone's spotlight. Any sensible person would understand and leave him alone, but there were always a few clueless ones who couldn't help themselves. They mistook his modesty for weakness and actually believed they were a class above him. "Little Wang's right. In seniority, you can't hold a candle to us. Your factory's nothing. Honestly, I'm curious how you even got a seat at this table." The man in sunglasses smirked, sizing Wang Ping'an up like a piece of meat. He'd been staring since the moment Wang Ping'an walked in. "Huang Baichuan, you're absolutely right, Mr. Huang. That's exactly why I'm here tonight. Good thing we're not close. If we were, I might be stepping on your turf." Wang Ping'an's smile didn't waver. "What do you think?" Huang Baichuan's mouth snapped shut. He wanted to curse him out, but one look at Wang Ping'an's face and the anger died in his throat. Better to swallow it. Too many heavy hitters were watching. There's no need to stoop to that loser's level. Let's eat. Almost everyone's here. Li Changyu stood, and the others slowly followed. Wang Ping'an didn't know the man's identity, but he could feel the weight of his influence pressing down on the room. Li Changyu caught his expression, lost in thought. "Boss Wang?" Wang Ping'an answered directly, "I'm just wondering who you are." The whole room burst into laughter. Huang Baichuan nearly choked, clutching his stomach as he howled. "You seriously don't know who General Manager Liu is? Just shut your factory down now." Feng Yang's sneer was open and cutting. He wanted Wang Ping'an completely crushed. Better yet, humiliated in front of the entire city's business community. An opponent who couldn't read the room was just pathetic. "General Manager Liu, I honestly didn't recognize you. I've only been in business about 2 weeks. Wang Ping'an smiled, a little embarrassed. He knew that in this situation, telling the truth would earn him more goodwill. Faking it would make him no different from Feng Yang. "No harm done. We've only just met. If you turned out to be like these old foxes, I'd forget who I am." General Manager Liu was an older man, skilled with people. He handled every relationship with ease, Even among the younger generation, it was then Wang Ping'an remembered who Liu was, the man who died of liver failure in early 2007. By the time it was caught, it was too late. The entire business world felt the shock, but he faded fast. A series of defeats let competitors swallow his company whole, leaving nothing behind. A capable man falling that hard, it was a damn waste, Wang Ping'an still remembered. The pity he'd felt back then. So now, without thinking, he waved a hand and said, "General Manager Liu shouldn't be drinking tonight." "What, so you're stepping in for him?" Feng Yang was out for blood today and wouldn't give an inch. "Yeah, I'll step in. It's respect for an elder. I'll drink with you." Without hesitation, Wang Ping'an filled his glass and downed it in one go. This body was different from his old one. He could drink anyone under the table now, especially a lightweight like Feng Yang. They weren't even in the same league. 3 cups in, Feng Yang was already rushing to the bathroom. Little Feng can't hold his liquor. Gone before the real contest even started. General Manager Liu smiled, studying Wang Ping'an with open curiosity. He'd meant to size the young man up during the meeting, but now he couldn't get a read on him at all. "I've been reading people all my life, but Wang Ping'an is the one I can't figure out. There's a stubborn fire inside him. Yet everything he does is genuine. He knows exactly when to seize the moment." Liu remarked to a few business friends during a break, "You're not wrong. Wang Ping'an acts without hesitation. He snapped up all those suburban factories in one move. Remember, before that he was just a shut-in, drinking his life away." They knew plenty about Wang Ping'an, especially the days before he made a name for himself. None of it was a secret. After the newspaper ran 2 stories, the whole business community paid attention. He was anything but ordinary. So if this kid stays on the right path, he's guaranteed success. But if he breaks the rules, he'll burn out and crash, Liu concluded. He gestured to the others to follow protocol. Cooperation was fine, but they had to keep their morals in check, of course. Old Liu. Don't worry. With that, they stepped back out. Wang Ping'an had already struck up conversations with other guests. He noticed that these business owners had a sharper understanding than most top-level managers. Those managers might have broader perspectives, but their limitations were obvious. "So, what should I do with my brand right now?" asked a boss who specialized in baby products. His business was sluggish, all his stock unsold. "Since we just met, I'll give you a tip. Open a few baby product centers where parents can bring their kids to try out items and services, combine bath services with snacks and drinks, hire proper supervisors, and stock every kind of product." The boss looked confused. What kind of place was that? "Can you break that down a bit? I'm not sure I'm following." He gave an awkward smile and handed over his business card. "Here's the deal. I can help you plan it, but we'll need to agree on the price first." Hearing that, the boss nodded quickly. Money wasn't the problem. He understood. He'd do anything to turn things around. It was simple, really. The old sales model was dead. Baby products only applied to kids from 0 to 3. The real game wasn't making money in those 3 years, it was locking customers in from the start. 3 years of transactions. Eating, drinking, sleeping, all tied to the center. "Come to my office tomorrow. We'll talk it through, and you'll see. I promise you'll show a profit by the end of this month." Wang Ping'an spoke with absolute confidence, not noticing that a few people behind him were already laughing. "Come on, Wang Ping'an. You talk a big game. Do you even know how much is lost? Over $1 million. Feng Yang piped up, acting like he had all the answers. He figured Wang Ping'an was an idiot, giving promises without even knowing the scale of the loss. Pure stupidity. $1 million is nothing. If you run it right, anything's possible. You lose it, then you earn it back. With that, Wang Ping'an gave a slight smile and walked out of the room. He liked to smoke alone. He didn't want to get into a pointless argument. Going head to head with Feng Yang would only make him look bad. I can see you're patient. Wang Ping'an recognized the voice. General Manager Liu, you're out here too? Wang Ping'an brushed it off casually, saying it wasn't worth his time. That's because he has nothing to do with your business. If he were your food supplier, would you still be this calm? Liu looked at him with a knowing smile. He'd spelled it out clearly. No business was completely secure. Everyone had an Achilles heel. Once someone else found that weak point and squeezed it, they could destroy you anytime. I hope you realize this soon, while you still have time. Thank you, General Manager Liu, but let me say one thing. I, Wang Ping'an, will stand at the top of this city. He crushed his cigarette, gave Liu a smile, and said goodbye. Since he'd been drinking, he had to call his driver to pick him up. While he waited, he ran into some old classmates. Did you hear? They're expanding the commercial zone in our district. Word is, they're rerouting the southbound lanes and widening them. No joke. 2 lanes to 4. How many 4-lane roads does this city even have? The group pieced it together fast. Something major was happening in the south, and road access would be the key to the entire transport network. Well, look who's here. Wang Ping'an himself. You keeping tabs on traffic patterns now? They spotted him standing off to the side and started ribbing him. Not the roads, the transportation business. If any of you need freight moved, call me. He pulled out his business cards and handed them around. Just then, the driver pulled the car up to the curb. Wang Ping'an didn't bother with goodbyes. He got in and left. After he was gone, the men glanced at the card. Bold print read, Transport Company. Looks like Wang Ping'an got there first. We're out of luck. Locking down a full transport network took more than money and trucks. You needed the drivers themselves. They were the real channel merchants. They'd expand the routes like wildfire and, in the end, they'd just help Wang Ping'an push his products out faster. And that model wasn't just about moving cargo. It opened the door for non-stop trading layered right on top. Meanwhile, Wang Ping'an was tracking the movements in other cities. How many consumers? What was the real target audience? All of it had to be factored in. Time's running out. The food safety inspection is about to hit. Who knows how many companies will go under? He let out a dry laugh. None of that kept him up at night. As long as his operation stayed on plan, his food factory wouldn't have a problem. Other people's businesses, that was a different story. But a piece of intel from Li Changyu was giving him serious stress. Someone filed for an industrial park. Funding hasn't been approved yet, but it's basically locked in. So does my factory zone still get included? If someone else swallows that park, I'm stuck playing defense from here on out. He hadn't seen this one coming. The only play was to make enough noise to force their hand. None of the industrial parks sat in the city center. They clustered inside the industrial hub, the most developed heavy and light manufacturing zone. That meant government backing and a massive boost in import-export volume. I'll ask around, but I can't promise anything. The news just leaked. Li Changyu didn't guarantee a thing. His father-in-law chaired a trade association, nothing more. He had no pull with planning or statistics. Around midnight, Wang Ping'an got another call from Li Changyu. This time the intel was solid. The project had gone to Wang Changsheng. He had grabbed an entire industrial plot to expand his own factory. Unlike commercial land, Wang Changsheng was willing to pay triple to rezone the whole area. So basically, cash flow is driving this industrial park. With the current momentum, they'll likely expand to 2 or 3 integrated factory zones by the end of the year. Li Changyu told him if he wanted in, he'd have to sit down with Wang Changsheng. There might still be a chance, but Wang Changsheng wasn't an easy man to deal with. From what Wang Ping'an remembered, The industrial park hadn't originally been anywhere near Wang Changsheng's land, so where was the break? If I go through with this, I'll have to negotiate money with him, and 9 times out of 10, that guy won't sink anytime soon. For Wang Ping'an, if all he wanted was a foothold in this city, he didn't actually need Wang Changsheng. He could just wait, let Wang Changsheng's operation collapse and then scoop it up. That would save him a staggering amount of money. But it would also burn time he couldn't afford to lose. Either way, he had to lock down the park's planning rights, driver, turn around, back to the hotel. Wang Ping'an knew there was only one person he could lean on now. The president of the Pan-Asia Chamber of Commerce, the head of the city's largest chamber, with the most complete industrial chain. If the president couldn't move the needle, nobody could. When the president saw Wang Ping'an, he looked surprised. Hadn't the kid already left? It's late, what brings you back? I was waiting to talk with you. Didn't have enough time earlier to go into detail. Hearing that, the president dismissed his driver. He wanted to hear what Wang Ping'an had to say. You're here about the industrial park. Before Wang Ping'an could open his mouth, the president already knew. Yes. I heard Wang Changsheng swallowed the entire park plan. I believe you're the only one who can change that. Wang Ping'an's voice was firm. That made the president smile, a little exasperated, but the kid had fire. Nothing wrong with that. I'm curious, what makes you think I can influence this? I'm just an old man. The industrial park dictates the development of the entire high-tech zone. Leaning on industrial land for commercial use won't hold. Yes, it pulls in a lot of capital, but the long-term cost to the city is too high. Wang Ping'an told him he couldn't accept that outcome. He needed the president's help. Do you understand the consequences this will have for him? In a year or two, the entire project could fall apart. Picking up the pieces then would save you a fortune. The president's foresight cut clean. He read the situation without blinking. His analysis lined up with Wang Ping'an's almost perfectly. That's true, but I can't wait that long. A year or two would derail everything I've put in motion. Oh! The president raised an eyebrow. What kind of plan is so important you'd walk past easy money? In 6 months, my business will be fully operational. My group will scale up and raise its first round of funding. And most critically, my food factory's market value will double by next year. The president froze. He could barely process it. Forget the 2 groups Wang Ping'an controlled. Doubling the value of a food factory was next to impossible. Son, you run a food plant, not a heavy industry titan or a publicly traded company. Doubling your valuation, that's a pipe dream. And taking risks like this could break you. The president delivered the warning plainly. The food safety inspection is coming. Make sure your own house is clean first. This time, the crackdown hit hard. It started in the cities, then rolled into every town and every village. Li Changyu laid it out bluntly. There's a few hundred people running a special task force across the city. They're hitting food hard, factories, restaurants, hotels, the works. No warning. No heads up. This was a full-scale surprise raid, pure and simple. Got it. Wang Ping'an smiled. My factory won't have any problems. But Li Changyu had come bearing good news too. City leadership was launching a food safety evaluation program, pass the inspection and meet every single requirement, and the factory would earn a pilot designation. So we actually have a shot at this. Wang Ping'an knew exactly what that designation meant. On paper, it was just a title, but anything tied to the word pilot signaled every safety standard had been met, and the smoother that road looked, the better things got. He pulled out his phone and called Feng Yang. Start a deep clean right now. Get everything prepped for a surprise inspection. Already on it. They had just cleaned the night before, so there wasn't much left to do still. Wang Ping'an wasn't taking any chances. He wanted to be first in line by 8 in the morning. The factory was running at full capacity, trucks of every size lined up, loading and unloading in a steady rhythm. The first wave of inspectors pulled up to food factory, crisp uniforms, sharp posture. "You're the factory manager. We're from the city, here for a special evaluation." After a quick greeting, Wang Ping'an led them inside. "This is our first workshop. Point 2 and 3 are further back. The workers are on the floor, so suit up and follow me." He had Nai Xiaolong hand out the cleanroom gear. Factory rules were strict, no exceptions, not even for inspectors. "I didn't expect a food factory with protocols this tight." The lead inspector nodded, clearly impressed. "This is the first one I've seen that follows rules to the letter." They toured the first workshop, checked their instruments, and moved on. "Show us the next one." Workshop 2 was even busier. All the packaging and production ran through here. Unlike the first shop, the air hung thick with the aroma of fresh ingredients. The lead inspector glanced at Wang Ping'an. "Nothing to flag here. Would you be interested in applying for the pilot evaluation? Your facility would make an excellent pilot site." Wang Ping'an didn't blink. "Absolutely. We'll get you on the schedule. Our team will come out and film a documentary to showcase the pilot results." Everything was clicking into place. Wang Ping'an could barely keep his excitement in check. A media documentary meant free advertising, new sales channels, and more than a few jealous competitors watching from the sidelines, but it also meant new pressure from here on. Every move mattered. Nai Xiaolong pulled Wang Ping'an aside and lowered his voice. "All our factories are in good shape. Think we can bring up the industrial park idea now?" "Not a chance. We pitch that now. We destroy our credibility. Drop it." Nai Xiaolong backed off. Still, if they could leverage this pilot into a special zone designation for the whole complex, the payoff would be massive. "Hey, Mr. Wang." One of the inspectors turned around. "I heard this is just one of your facilities. How many factories do you run?" "About a dozen, none of them huge. They're all part of my food supply chain." The inspectors exchanged glances. They clearly wanted to see those other factories. "Mind if we take a look at a few of them, right now?" This was the real test. If Wang Ping'an's factory was just for show, the others would be a mess. Any problems and they'd pull the pilot status on the spot. But when the inspectors split into teams and hit the other sites, they found the same exacting standards across the board: cleanroom suits, protective gear, nothing missing. The management protocols were airtight, and not a single worker was coasting. "Flawless," every inspector said when they returned. "Nothing to complain about. Nobody who runs an operation like this is ordinary." They had even captured plenty of footage. "Thanks for your cooperation. The pilot designation is definitely landing here." Wang Ping'an walked them to their minibus and watched it disappear down the road. Quick meeting. He called in every manager, not just from the food factory, but from every affiliated site. He looked them dead in the eye. "Every one of you came up from the workshop floor. I don't care about your past skills or whether you think you're leadership material. Here's the plan. Once we lock in the pilot designation, we push straight for the special zone." He intended to redevelop the entire complex. Step 1. Fund the road widening out of his own pocket. That meant temporarily shutting some operations down, but he already had a blueprint. Nai Xiaolong would lay it out. "Old Nai, take it." Nai Xiaolong nodded. "All right, you all know the objective. During the renovation, all food production moves to workshops 3 and 4. They've just been expanded. We start moving the equipment tonight." They would work from the back forward, widening roads as they went. From this point on, Food Factory would serve as the flagship. Every other facility would operate under its umbrella. "No problem. one manager said. But if we get the special zone designation, what kind of employment system will our workers be under? Wang Ping'an let out a short laugh. Standard employment, the salaries you're earning now, they stay. And I'll be signing all of you up for insurance. Foam Yang handed out printed contracts. Every manager read through them. They stared at the pages: health insurance, accident coverage. This was better than anything they'd get working anywhere else. I just want you all to know, we're here to build something real, and we don't abandon anyone, but if anyone drops the ball during the annual review, it's 30 laps around the track. The inspection team gave a different assessment for every person they evaluated. Of course, some people still refused to cooperate. Fan Xuanfu's branch was one of them. His factory wouldn't even let the inspectors through the gate. Makes no difference if you're the ones here or your bosses. You're not getting in. Fan Xuanfu insisted his formulas were classified. If they ever leaked, not even 10 lives could pay for it. I've never seen anyone like you. If you won't cooperate, I'll have to file a formal request. The inspector turned and made a call. After reporting the factory address, approval for an inspection warrant came through immediately. Save your energy. This land is flipping to commercial soon. The whole high-tech zone will be right here. We'll be seeing each other all the time. Fan Xuanfu kept running his mouth, arguing non-stop. His factory had been operating for years without anyone giving him trouble. Mr. Fan, here's the inspection warrant. Cooperate. The inspector held the warrant out without a second thought. Fan grabbed it and tore it to pieces. Now I know who you are. You're with Chen Cheng, aren't you? Let me tell you, you're not getting in today. Not me. Not a single worker in this factory. Nobody here agrees with this. Fan waved his hand, shooing them off. A pack of idiots who couldn't take a hint. Faced with that level of violent resistance, the inspectors had no choice. They submitted their assessments that same day, filing a joint statement that Fan Xuanfu's food factory posed serious safety risks. Initiate an immediate intervention. Anyone who resists gets charged with obstruction of administration. The order was clear. Before Fan Xuanfu could even process it, his people had already clashed with the visiting inspectors. This time, it wasn't just 1 or 2 workers fighting back. Over 30 of them were taken away. Pushing your luck in broad daylight. You really thought the crackdown was a joke? Mr. Pu stared coldly at Fan Xuanfu. The man wasn't dumb, so why pick now to screw up? The high-tech zone opportunity was gone for him, no question. Whether the factory would be shut down permanently was still up in the air. Then the Food Safety Association stepped in, and Fan Xuanfu was completely finished. His production processes had multiple violations, plus illegal wastewater discharge. The entire factory was ordered to suspend operations for rectification. It's shut down and sealed for now. They won't reopen until everything is fixed. Mo Yufar called Chen Cheng with a laugh. Fan Xuanfu had basically dug his own grave, he said. Nobody could have stopped him from walking straight into that trap. The inspectors weren't even from their city. They'd been sent by the provincial government. If food safety is this critical and he still took the risk, just imagine how dangerous the whole industry is. Taking down Fan Xuanfu's branch brought down the entire chain of businesses and products tied to it. A direct order followed. Every product from Fan Xuanfu's factory was recalled. Compensation where compensation was owed. Accountability where it belonged. Don't worry about the green pilot assessment. Your food factory is a lock. When I saw those photos, even I was stunned. Mo Yufar hung up. He'd been staying close to Chen Cheng lately, partly because he could see Chen Cheng's hard work paying off, and partly because he knew Chen Cheng would be useful to him down the line. That evening, an unexpected guest showed up. Chen Cheng was about to pack up and head home for dinner, but when Mr. Pu arrived, He immediately had Zhu Kanyang brew some tea. Old Zhu, sit in on this. This is Mr. Pu, chairman of the City Chamber of Commerce. Zhu Kanyang stood and shook Mr. Pu's hand. I'd heard Food Factory has two heavyweights running the show, now I'm seeing it for myself. Mr. Pu cleared his throat and got straight to the point. He was here about the high-tech zone plan. With Fan Xuanfu out of the picture, the Chamber of Commerce has one recommendation slot. IT would develop a new high-tech industrial park centered around a single private enterprise. Mr. Pu said this was a rare opportunity. Once the park was built, everything around it would transform. Chen Cheng's biggest advantage was the fact he already had a fully complete factory area, something no one else had. So you're saying the recommendation goes to me? That's right. You're my only choice, but listen, once the park is built, you'll be under oversight. Mr. Pu wasn't lying. The park would have its own dedicated management. Chen Cheng's every move would be visible. There was no getting around that. If Fan Xuanfu had that much confidence, why wouldn't I? There's nothing to worry about. Chen Cheng's reply was firm. Nothing like that would ever happen to him. I hope so. That's all I came to say for now. You don't need to join the chamber. I'm not sure there's any point in running it anyway. Mr. Pu smiled and stood up to leave. Of course. Let me walk you out. Chen Cheng saw Mr. Pu all the way to his car before turning back. To some extent, Mr. Pu had his own reasons for helping this time. He could have easily given the recommendation to someone else in the chamber. As long as there was a benefit, no one would have complained. Across the city, Wang Ping'an and his team had visited 17 towns. Many of the cooperatives there were looking for distribution. Here's the contract, take a look. They've all signed. Once we agree, they'll send the payment. Wang Ping'an set the contracts in front of Chen Cheng. Good thing he hadn't gone home early, he would have missed this. A quick glance at the order volume showed it was 3 times the coverage they had in the city. He hadn't expected demand from the neighboring city to be that high. Who's handling warehouse transfers right now? How many orders are we short? Chen Cheng didn't have the numbers. He looked at Zhu Kanyang. Everything's going to the distributors. We've fulfilled 30% of orders. If the whole factory runs at full capacity, we can cover the gap, but there's still 20% we can't meet. That meant expanding the production line. But that carried big risks. If external demand dried up, he wouldn't be able to keep producing. Excess inventory would pile up. Here's what we'll do, keep production at its current level. Tell them we're only taking pre-orders from now on. Delivery within 1 week. Feng Yili slid the report across the table. That brings us to your cost. We're just waiting on your go-ahead. The numbers were low per unit, but the total still made Chen Cheng's jaw tighten. He stared at the figure for a second, then nodded. Let's do this for now. Just use the card. There's about 100 grand in it. No need to touch the other money. He was already planning his next move. If his gut was right, industrial stock had already skyrocketed past what anyone expected. The whole market was in a frenzy, dumping old shares to chase this dark horse. Plenty of people were still watching from the sidelines, but Chen Cheng knew better soon. There wouldn't be enough shares to buy. He'd be locked out, so every cent he had was going straight in. What are you staring at? Zhu Kaiyang crept up behind him and caught him punching numbers into a calculator. Stocks. I bought a ton. If they surge again, I'll be golden. Chen Cheng let a faint smile slip. This stock was going to rebound, no question, and 6 months from now, it would start a steady climb. He had plenty of time to flip it. The sweet spot to sell, right before the end of the year. So for now, it was simple. Keep feeding the position, every spare dollar. Pour it all in. Too bad you can't buy any more of that stock, Zhu Kaiyang said, glancing at Huafeng's current holdings. Those few million you've got are useless now. Yeah. I can't let a few million just sit around waiting. We've got 3 days until delivery. I have to do something. At those words, Zhu Kaiyang froze for a second. He thought Chen Cheng had lost his mind. What the hell was this kid trying to pull? Going from a bike to a motorcycle on a gamble? Don't do anything illegal. We can't let the factory go down with you. Zhu Kaiyang's voice was tight with genuine worry. Chen Cheng had enough guts for 10 men, and that scared him. Relax. What I'm doing is totally legal and above board, and you'll see results in 3 days. Chen Cheng waved for Zhu Kaiyang to follow. They were heading into the city right now. They got into the car. Zhu Kaiyang slid into the passenger seat. Chen Cheng lit a cigarette with a smug smile. Driver, hit it. You're getting way too full of yourself, Zhu Kaiyang muttered. I really can't figure out what's going on in your head. What kind of profit could you create in 3 days? It was anyone's guess, but Chen Cheng's focus had shifted from land to finance. The most promising asset right now wasn't property, it was this securities firm. That securities trading firm went under. It couldn't hold out against Huafeng's hot streak 2 weeks ago. They arrived. Chen Cheng had already spoken to the head of the securities company on the phone. The guy was waiting in his office. Mr. Chen, you're here. I heard you want to acquire our company. Not acquire. I don't have that kind of money yet, but I can help you get through this. Chen Cheng smiled faintly. He told the man he had some spare cash that could keep the firm afloat. The boss grunted, skeptical. He couldn't see the angle. I know your firm lives off commissions, so let's play a big game. Chen Cheng said he could invest 3 million, but all of it would be swapped for commission rights on one specific stock. And what do you get out of it? The boss looked confused. I want your shares from now on. I take 50% of every single commission you earn. Chen Cheng said it flat out. The second the words hit the air, Zhu Kaiyang yanked him back. This was insane. No one in their right mind would agree to terms like that unless they had a screw loose. Mr. Chen, your conditions are way too harsh. You know our commission margins aren't high as it is. Your 3 million might as well be flushed down the toilet. Why would I possibly agree? He had a point. Only an idiot would say yes to that offer. If I remember correctly, your securities firm is suspended from trading right now. While you're halted, you can't do any deals, can't collect commissions, and the worst part, everyone's waiting for you to crash and burn. Chen Cheng's smile didn't waver. 3 million wasn't much, but it could save the entire company. The words hit the boss like a ton of bricks. He didn't even know the exact number anymore, just that his company was stuck in a trading halt, and the shortfall was exactly 3 million. Sorry, we need a minute. Zhu Kaiyang dragged Chen Cheng out of the office and lowered his voice. Are you out of your mind? How could you throw away 3 million like that? Even if he agrees, that money goes down the drain on a suspended company. You're wrong. I wouldn't do this if I weren't sure I could multiply that money several times over in 3 days and take this securities firm up a whole level. Chen Cheng sounded dead certain. He clapped Zhu Kaiyang on the shoulder and told him to just watch the play unfold. When they walked back in, the boss told Chen Cheng he could accept all the terms. Good. I'll wire you the 3 million right now, but I want 30% of the company's shares, and 50% of all commission profits. I won't meddle in any other business. Chen Cheng placed his card on the table. If the boss agreed, the deal was done. No problem. But the price for this share exchange, the manager explained that the equity acquisition had to go through formalities. Chen Cheng would need to pay up. Once the stock surges, I'll pay you back with the commission money, so don't worry about not getting your funds. Chen Cheng waved a hand. He told the guy to calculate 30% of the current company valuation. 5 minutes later, The boss set down the calculator, the number, 6 million. Fine. 6 million. If I don't pay you back that 6 million in 3 days, you can keep the remaining 3 million. Chen Cheng gestured for him to draw up the contract. The cash in his pocket was already itching to get to work. The whole process went smoothly for the securities firm. Chen Cheng was injecting 9 million in capital, almost 10 million. Sure, 6 million was an IOU, but these days, with a contract in hand, a debt was a debt. After the funds came through, Chen Cheng took control of the computer on the other side and swapped out all the shares and equity. His reasoning was simple: dump every original, scattered share of Huafeng he could get his hands on. To businessman, the shares held by securities firms were exactly what they needed. Those rising retail shares weren't worth their attention, so the sell-off quickly turned into a pile of Huafeng stock. Why are you only buying Esgong Huafeng? The stock's been skyrocketing. But it could tank at any moment. In their jargon, it had inflated too fast and could crash hard at any second, and when it crashed, people got wiped out, some even jumped off buildings. Trust me, give me 3 days to do whatever I want, then you take over. Chen Cheng had it all calculated. He knew the boss's habits. He wouldn't hold on to Huafeng stock. Chen Cheng could buy it up himself. Once the deal was done, he'd be the biggest beneficiary of Esgong Huafeng. After leaving the securities firm, Zhu Kaiyang pulled Chen Cheng aside. Is there something else you know? I feel like you knew Esgong Huafeng would spike all along. Yeah, I knew, and I wasn't the only one. The difference is, I had the guts to buy in when they didn't. Esgong Huafeng kept climbing for over 20 days. Chen Cheng bought and sold repeatedly, and plenty of online investors followed his lead, but the big money stayed on the sidelines. Their expert analysis called Huafeng a flash in the pan. It wouldn't last and would soon crash back to reality. But you know what? I don't believe this thing is going under. Just wait and see how much we cash in 3 days from now. Chen Cheng did a rough estimate. At the current trading volume, the securities firm would recover 90 million yuan instantly, and he'd pocket 45 million of that. 3 days. 45 million. Money making money? Money could save people, and then make more money. Zhu Kaiyang finally got it. Chen Cheng was capitalizing on the chaos. Anyone could have made that move, but without the 3 million entry threshold, they wouldn't take the gamble. They'd given the boss 3 million too, but if Chen Cheng hadn't demanded 6 million to hold for 3 days, the boss would never have touched a single Huafeng share. The logic was clear to everyone, but they lacked the nerve. I feel like you're setting that guy up once he realizes what happened, won't he hate you? Zhu Kaiyang's face was grim. He thought Chen Cheng only succeeded in business. In any other field, he'd be destroyed. I'll bet you he won't hate me. He'll thank me. Chen Cheng's eyes burned with confidence. He never lost a bet. Fine. If you win, pick any restaurant in the city, my treat. Zhu Kaiyang said it with sudden boldness, but if he won, his salary would double. Deal. Let me teach you a thing or two about a sure thing. Back at the food processing plant, Chen Cheng launched the first round of reorganization. He opened up the entire factory complex to begin integration. Then news came from President Pu. The deal was finalized. IT would happen within the next couple of days. Don't make any moves on your factory for now. Wait for guidance from the higher-ups. President Pu stressed that the high-tech industrial park project was critical. It could shape future business models. And it was the only industrial park being built in a township. Even if no other companies moved in, just having Chen Cheng's factories there was impressive enough. About 5 hours later, the documents arrived. The full restructuring plan for the high-tech industrial park was released. All Chen Cheng had to do was sign off and rearrange his factory zones according to the layout. The land area is basically the same actually. We gained about 100 square meters, but the road widening changed the lanes. Now all vehicles, big and small, have to enter the factory to load. Zhu Kaiyang read off the regulations. The rules were strict and non-negotiable, zero wiggle room. Fine, we'll do what they say. Start by painting road markings and crosswalks in the factory zone. Chen Cheng pointed out that with all vehicles entering the premises, safety was the top priority. Proper traffic planning was the only way to prevent accidents, and they needed a set of supporting rules starting now. Tell every employee, anyone who violates the factory traffic rules gets 1,000 yuan fine. When Feng Yilv heard the amount, he froze. This wasn't a joke. Management's monthly salary was barely over 1,000 yuan. Getting hit with that fine would wipe them out. You think it's too high? Want to lower it? Chen Cheng shot Feng Yilv a glance. Yes, I think a warning would be enough, maybe 50 or 100 yuan. Feng Yilv argued that many workers were already struggling. Such a harsh penalty could spark resentment. When they get run over by a truck or crushed, then you'll know the real cost. They can't work, their families fall apart, and we pay out a fortune in compensation. Compared to that, was 1,000 yuan still too much? Rules were set in stone that if someone chose to defy them, it wasn't about Chen Cheng being unreasonable. There was no room for negotiation. He waved his hand and made the call final. Anyone who objected was fired. Listen up. Everything here follows the rules. If one person gets the whole factory shut down, I won't let it slide. How did Fan Xuanfu die? Wasn't that lesson obvious enough? Did they really not understand why that factory got shut down? We understand. After all the managers nodded, Chen Cheng directed them to start integrating the original factory zones. They would be rebuilt soon. The estimated completion time for all projects was 6 months. But first, the modern facilities that didn't need major changes would stay as they were. Many of the factories were brand new. Tearing them apart would be a waste, and no one was reimbursing him for renovations. It was strictly a matter of necessity and convenience. Feng, what brings you by? General Manager Liu looked up, caught off guard. His secretary hadn't buzzed him. Feng Yang stood in the doorway like he owned the place. Just checking in. Brought you a few things. Feng Yang set a bag on the desk. Liver supplements, wellness products, the real kind, pure extracts. Nothing cut with filler. I appreciate it. Liu let out a tired laugh. I've been drinking way too much lately. Half the time I'm terrified I'll drop dead at some banquet. He wasn't even a big drinker. That was the irony. Switch to tea. Does the same job, less damage. Feng Yang smiled and placed a tin of fresh tea leaves beside the bag. Expensive ones. He just bought them. Alright, out with it. What do you need? If I can make it happen, consider it done. Liu didn't play games. He valued Feng Yang, and it had nothing to do with brown nosing. The kid had something. A spark Liu recognized. Looking at Feng Yang was like staring at his younger self. All the ambition he'd never been able to shake. One thing, actually. I'm hoping you can introduce me to some suppliers. I need imported coating materials. Feng Yang laid it out. His factory complex was in the middle of a massive renovation. He wanted every surface sealed with imported waterproof coatings. Liu shook his head. You know what that stuff costs right now? Imported is double. He didn't get it. Not in this manufacturing climate. Standard coatings were cheaper, easier. The math worked for almost everyone. You're not wrong, but I'm playing a long game. We're dealing with food products. I have to go above and beyond. Feng Yang had done the research. Imported coatings, lower toxicity, faster drying, superior waterproofing, but the deal breaker was wall corrosion. The domestic stuff ate through surfaces over time. The imports didn't. That alone justified the price. Maintenance over the next few years would drop to almost nothing. If you're set on it, I'll connect you with someone. You two hammer out the price, and then I'll take a slice off the final number. Liu was sharp. He didn't offer to close the deal himself. That gave him room to maneuver. The door swung open. Liu, I hear you've got something big for me. A foreigner strode into the office. His Chinese was fluent but rough, carrying a local accent no amount of study could scrub away. Ziegler. I'm Feng Yang. Good to meet you. Feng Yang's reply came in effortless English. He was a college graduate. No way he'd let this guy size him up and find him lacking. Ziegler's expression flickered. Out here, in the industrial outskirts, most business owners barely scraped through school. Feng Yang's English was the cleanest he'd heard in years. Mr. Feng. A pleasure. People like you are rare these days. Ziegler settled into a chair and got straight to it. How much coating was Feng Yang looking to buy? Not sure yet. Just bring your entire inventory to my factory. There's a lot of ground to cover. Ziegler laughed. No offense, but your factory won't need anywhere near that much. Let's start with 100 cases. I'll give you cost price on those. Not even close to enough. Feng Yang didn't hesitate. I don't need to run the numbers to know that. His factory's footprint was enormous. 100 cases wouldn't even scratch the surface. Then let me see the site. No point guessing. Ziegler kept his tone polite, but his skepticism was obvious. He didn't believe Feng Yang's operation was that large. He knew every plant in the city. Almost no one used imported waterproof coatings. He wasn't expecting a major order. Then they pulled up to the site. Ziegler froze. It wasn't a factory. It was an entire industrial park. Every building bore the Ping'an Food Factory logo. Wait. All of this is yours. His voice came out strangled. Was Feng Yang the guy from the papers? The one everyone had been talking about. That's what I was trying to tell you. Bring everything. And if logistics are a problem, I'll send my own fleet to pick it up. Feng Yang smiled. He had trucks. No reason to pay someone else's delivery fees. Okay, let me check my numbers. Ziegler pulled out his phone and called his warehouse manager. A quick back and forth, and he had the figure. Total current inventory 0.4 million yuan. He looked at Feng Yang. You're serious about this? Completely serious. I don't want to deal with anyone else. You're Liu's friend. They settled at 3,700,000. Then General Manager Liu stepped in and cut it to 3,500,000. A favor to Feng Yang. The kid had potential. The kind that paid off down the road. I'll have the goods delivered tomorrow. Shipping's on me. Ziegler signed the contract without a flicker of hesitation. The delivery fee was pocket change to him. Word traveled fast through the foreign business community. A million yuan order wasn't something you closed every day. Mr. Feng, this has been a real pleasure. Is there anything else we can help with? I hear your products are flying off the shelves. Ziegler grinned, grabbed a pastry from the sample display, tore it open, and took a bite. What do you think? Can you push something like this through your network? Feng Yang gestured at the pastry. It was his hottest product right now. Broad consumer appeal. Ziegler chewed and thought it over. Then he shook his head. Regular people might buy it, sure, but it doesn't have legs. Not for the long haul. He pointed at the nut products on display. Those same problemed no wide appealed. If it were my call, I wouldn't go down that road. He gave Feng Yang the truth. You got one real shot at a major expansion. Snack foods like these, he wouldn't bet on them unless Feng Yang was dead set. But that would be a waste of resources. So you're saying I need to create something new, something that hits the high-end market. Trend-driven. Ziegler's smile widened. Now you're getting it. Look, I won't compare my channels to the major players downtown, but I can get your product into every coastal market faster than anyone else. He wasn't bragging. Their distribution network entered the mainland through the coast and spread inward. They knew the trade routes cold with solid capital behind them. No market fluctuation could knock them off course. Feng Yang studied Ziegler's confident expression and felt the corner of his own mouth pull upward. Wang Ping'an remembered back in '05, light industry had dominated exports but ceramics had surged 37%, and that wasn't just art pieces, even sanitary building materials were using export-grade porcelain. "Here's the deal," Wang Ping'an said. "I'll have an answer for you in a day or two. This time, I promise you won't walk away empty-handed." He didn't own a ceramics factory, but he knew exactly where the best ceramic base in the country was. "Good. I'll wait for your good news. Don't disappoint me this time." Ziegler smiled and climbed into his Pegasi. The man never lost his flair, no matter the country. "Old Feng, we're taking a business trip. Time to scope out the market." Feng Yang had heard the whole conversation. He was dying to know how Wang Ping'an planned to crack this market. Sure, Ziegler was a small-time foreign trader, but his connections were gold. In Western business circles, import-export was everything, globalization at work. "I'm going into ceramics. This factory has solid craftsmanship, but it's stalled. I want to take it over." Wang Ping'an handed over a report. The place actually had a decent reputation. Bad management just tanked their name, but the brand still carried weight by it, and you'd already be ahead. "Are you serious? You can't just jump into something like this. Domestic ceramic prices are dirt cheap." Feng Yang stared at him, disbelief written all over his face. He'd wanted to stop Wang Ping'an earlier but held back because of Ziegler. "Relax. It's a one-time investment, endless profit. We're buying it today." Wang Ping'an was dressed like a man of means again, this time adding a fedora. "You want to rent a car here and drive? Have you thought about fuel costs for the whole trip?" Feng Yang argued they could save half by renting at the destination. "You're wrong. We need to look the part for them to trust us. If we rent on their turf, they'll see right through it." Back when Wang Ping'an started from nothing, he'd used a single Pegasi to close deal after deal. Feng Yang himself had been lured in by that same car. If he hadn't seen Wang Ping'an's crazy methods up close, Feng would have stayed in the dark forever. A 2-day rental on a Pegasi wasn't cheap, but Wang Ping'an paid without flinching. His old car wasn't worth bringing out. "Fine clothes make the man you drive." Wang Ping'an tossed him the keys with a flourish, then leaned back in the passenger seat and closed his eyes. "Man, a good car really is something else. The comfort is off the charts." Feng Yang couldn't stop praising the ride, though he didn't let himself dream of owning one. No point thinking about impossible things. That was just ridiculous. Crossing 2 provinces by car took over 10 hours, even at a good clip. What are we even going this far for? What if the goods get damaged in transit? Feng Yang raised a very real concern. If they were responsible for everything before export, the losses and shipping costs would land on them. "What if I told you we pack it up and let Ziegler pick it up himself?" Wang Ping'an smiled. Not only would they save on costs, they'd avoid any liability for damage in transit. "Even though we don't know anyone in this city, Ziegler will make sure we do, for a price. Then it won't be us begging him for favors. They'll come begging us." Honestly, that was how every one of Wang Ping'an's businesses worked now. If people weren't begging him, the industrial park wouldn't have its monopoly. It was all out of anyone's control. No one could have predicted it. Halfway there, Wang Ping'an told Feng Yang to pull over. He wanted to taste the local specialties. "Can't we eat after we're done?" Feng Yang sighed, but he did it anyway. He didn't realize Wang Ping'an was already scouting the market, chatting up every shop owner and customer he could. "Man, you planned this all along. You just got here and you've already got the whole place figured out. What, you think a newbie doesn't get ripped off? This is where taxi drivers eat. They know everything. Nothing gets past them. In any unfamiliar city, if you know nothing, flag down a taxi. The driver will tell you everything." From those conversations, Wang Ping'an learned the factory had a solid reputation but high prices. The reason sales were stuck? Different firing methods meant their ceramics weren't as durable as competitors at the same grade. That's why they'd lost so many customers. You guys are from out of town, right? Don't buy from there. There's a market not far ahead, way cheaper. The taxi driver gave them a friendly tip. Grateful Wang Ping'an had paid for his noodles. Thanks, safe travels. Wang Ping'an walked back to his car with a smile. Now he understood the situation that if he took over, he'd need to rebuild the reputation first. That was his edge. If the business were perfect, he wouldn't have an in buying it outright. The owners would never agree, so this was a gift from heaven. Honk honk, Feng Yang tapped the horn. The car in front wasn't moving. What the hell are you honking for? You in a hurry to die? The driver had road rage. He stuck his head out the window, screaming insults, almost going after Feng Yang's whole family. How do you drive? If you can't, don't. The moment those words left Feng Yang's mouth, the guy flung his door open and stomped over, ready to tear the Pegasi apart. Just go, ignore him. Wang Ping'an didn't let the guy wreck anything. He switched lanes and drove straight. It meant a detour, but keeping the peace was worth it. By the time they reached the factory, they were 10 minutes late. You must be Mr. Wang Ping'an. The factory director was a man in his 40s, honest-faced, nothing like a businessman. Yes, I'm Wang Ping'an, director. I'd appreciate it if you could walk me through everything. Wang Ping'an shook his hand with a smile, then gestured for Feng Yang to park the car. I'm curious, Mr. Wang, where are you from, exactly? I can't help wondering why a young talent like you would want to jump into our line of work. She was fishing for his background. Wang Ping'an didn't bite. Feng Yang cleared his throat. Mr. Wang just got back from overseas. The old man wanted him to take over the family business, so he figured he'd pick up a side project along the way. The mention of the old man had Li Changyu leaning in. And your father is? Let's leave his name out of it. This is a conversation for us younger folks. I'm sure you understand why I can't say too much. Wang Ping'an smiled and motioned for Li Changyu to lead the way. The young man stopped slacking off after that. Men with that kind of presence didn't grow on trees, especially ones who pulled up in a Pegasi. Mr. Wang, this is the entire facility. The 3 sections you see all belong to us. We specialize in high-end composite materials. He went on to brag that his materials were translucent and the best in the city. You won't find higher quality material anywhere. That might be true, but the durability isn't there. Sticking to your original vision is admirable, but when the market shifts, it doesn't leave you much room to recover. Wang Ping'an sliced right through Li Changyu's self-praise. He wasn't here for a heart-to-heart, he was here to be you. No reason to let the man keep grandstanding. As soon as the words landed, Li Changyu's face tightened with embarrassment, but he couldn't argue. The plant was stalled precisely because of that flaw. If it weren't for the cash flow crisis, he never would have considered selling. The truth is, before I came here, plenty of friends told me your prices are too high and your quality doesn't match the hype. I don't see it that way. The whole factory still has value. Your reputation, for instance. Wang Ping'an pointed out that even a notorious reputation counted for something. Once word of mouth turned toxic, the entire industry would turn its back. So the heritage the factory clung to? Irrelevant now. Li Changyu's expression kept sinking. He'd planned to play up his brand in front of Wang Ping'an, to gain the upper hand in negotiations. Instead, everything he owned had become worthless, worse, a liability. So, Mr. Wang, what are you suggesting? By now, Li Changyu barely dared to speak above a whisper. He was treating Wang Ping'an like his savior, the only one who could pull him out of this mess. The truth was, he couldn't even cover payroll. If he didn't solve the problem within a month, the factory would face bankruptcy and seizure. I'm suggesting a direct acquisition. Give me a fair price. Wang Ping'an was blunt. He knew the market. He wasn't buying to revive the place. He was buying to make another friend. 1 million? Li Changyu had started to say 2 million, but caught the shift in Wang Ping'an's expression and instantly corrected himself. Even 1 million wouldn't leave him with much after paying off loans and staff, maybe a little over 200,000. Are you sure about 1 million? Wang Ping'an shot him a cold look, but inside he was already celebrating. This was too easy. Other people might not understand why he wanted a broken-down factory, but he knew exactly what he was doing. Foreigners cared about two things: quality and heritage. Those selling points alone would let him break into the overseas market. And the key thing, this composite materials plant only made craft pieces. They hadn't ventured into any other sectors. Wang Ping'an had come prepared. 1 million. I can't go lower than that. Li Changyu's voice was strained. He knew Wang Ping'an had probably already seen the full picture, so this was his final offer. Make it 1,010,000, Wang Ping'an said, a faint smile breaking through. Consider the extra 10 a gesture of goodwill. I'm not here to kick a man when he's down. Li Changyu blinked, then exhaled. They signed the contract on the spot, and Wang Ping'an transferred the money immediately. A massive weight lifted off Li Changyu's shoulders. The rock that had been crushing him finally dropped. What's wrong with you? You just handed over an extra 10,000 like it was pocket change. I thought you were going to keep bargaining. Feng Yang lowered his voice, baffled in his experience. Wang Ping'an never let people take advantage of him. You're not seeing the bigger picture. That 10,000 buys goodwill. Now nobody can say I exploited their desperation. Instead, they'll see me as a man of integrity. Wang Ping'an explained that 10,000 was a bargain for that kind of loyalty. As long as those workers wanted to stay, he'd keep every one of them on. Just then, an engine roared in the distance. Someone's car was obnoxiously loud. Uncle, pour me a glass of water. I'm dying of thirst. I ran into two clueless idiots on the road. The familiar voice made Wang Ping'an's eyes narrow. Could it be? Sure enough, the guy sauntered into view, the same hothead who'd cursed him out and tried to yank his car door open earlier. What trouble did you stir up now? I'm busy. Deal with it yourself. Li Changyu snapped, impatient, then turned to Wang Ping'an with an apologetic smile. That's my nephew, young Master Wu, spoiled rotten since day one. He's never learned how to behave. I didn't start anything. If those two losers hadn't peeled out so fast, I would have smashed their car. Young Master Wu stopped, frowning at the Pegasi. Hey, that car looks familiar. Li Changyu stormed over and hissed at his nephew to shut up before he embarrassed them further. I'm telling you, uncle, you've got to get payback for me. I'm not letting this go. What's got you so fired up, young man? Whose car were you planning to trash? Wang Ping'an stepped out of the office with a faint smile, Feng Yang right behind him. The instant their eyes met, young Master Wu went berserk. He lunged forward, fists and feet flying. Stop, do you even know who they are? I usually let you run wild, but I will not let you cause trouble here. Li Changyu grabbed his nephew, completely at a loss. Uncle, these two scumbags are swindlers. Don't believe a word they say. Let me take care of them. A sharp slap cut through the air. The kid froze, stunned. Get lost. This isn't the place for your tantrums. Tell your father that if he can't discipline you, I'll do it for him. Zhong Hao couldn't handle being yelled at like that. At home, he was the golden child, the only son, spoiled rotten his whole life. The last thing he expected was for his uncle by marriage to chew him out over two outsiders. The more he fumed, the more he seethed. He spun around and stalked back to his car. The second Chen Cheng and Zhu Kaiyang stepped out of that building, he was going to ram right into them. Mr. Chen, it's settled. The factory is yours now once I arrange the employees' severance. I'll call a formal meeting. That evening, Chen Meng asked Chen Cheng to drive while Zhu Kaiyang navigated them toward the best hotel in the city. He wanted to treat his two VIPs properly. Honestly, you must own a lot of assets, right? Chen Meng was still curious. Guys who could casually drop $1 million weren't common these days, and he'd picked Chen Meng's tiny, broken-down factory. It's nothing, just a dozen factories and a few dozen storefronts, small stuff. Chen Cheng made it clear he didn't want to ride on his family's legacy. After returning from abroad, he'd been planning his own future. A dozen factories. My God, what kind of person are you? Chen Meng's mind went blank. He hadn't realized Chen Cheng was this wealthy, but between the man's bearing and his car, it was obvious. Still, he needed confirmation. Then his friend called. Yes, Chen Cheng was real, a bona fide business prodigy. He'd taken over an entire industrial park in half a month. Some even estimated his liquid capital was over 100 million. Mr. Chen, let's stay here tonight. I'll arrange dinner for everyone. Sounds good, thanks, brother Chen. Chen Cheng nodded with a smile. He knew when to flatter and when to put someone in their place. It was a delicate art, and he'd mastered it. Boss, someone's following us. Zhu Kaiyang glanced at the rearview mirror. A black sedan was speeding toward them. He'd noticed it earlier. It was that Zhong Hao guy. Probably still pissed and looking for revenge. Who's bold enough to try this? Chen Meng started, but then he recognized the car behind them. It was his nephew, Zhong Hao. Unbelievable. That kid was out of control. Zhong Hao, stop, he shouted, but it was too late. The crash slammed the sedan right into Chen Cheng's rear bumper. The car held up well, no one was hurt. If the airbags had deployed, the aftermath would have been a nightmare. Rear-end repairs like this aren't cheap, are they? Zhu Kaiyang's voice was cold. He could see Chen Meng on the verge of tears. Definitely not cheap, but Director Chen will have to answer for this. Chen Cheng's tone was flat. Looked like Zhong Hao had dragged his uncle into another mess. Zhong Hao climbed out of his car, grinning at the stunned Zhu Kaiyang. You think you can throw your weight around in my town? My uncle doesn't care. I'm the king here. But when his gaze slid to the back seat, his uncle Chen Meng's face was sour as spoiled milk. Zhong Hao, no one can save you this time. By the time Zhong Hao's father, Zhong Tianda, arrived, the kid was terrified. This was obviously intentional ramming. If Chen Cheng pressed charges, Zhong Hao could end up in handcuffs. They had to settle this privately. Name your price and I'll pay it. Zhong Tianda had no choice but to cave. If Chen Cheng turned this into a legal fight, it would get ugly. Take it to the dealership. Let them decide the repair cost. Chen Cheng said his car had never been scratched before. Today was its first real damage. The final estimate came to $10,000. Chen Cheng waived any pain and suffering, but Chen Meng fought hard on the details, insisting he had to make things right before Chen Cheng left. Then he told his brother-in-law about the factory acquisition. Zhong Tianda's jaw dropped. Look what you've done, apologize to Mr. Chen, now. The sudden slap left Zhong Hao stunned. He'd thought he was doing the right thing. Now this, apologize, you little beast, or I'll beat you to death. Zhong Tianda was a businessman, but his son had driven him over the edge. I'm sorry, Mr. Chen. It's all my fault. The apology was flat, meaningless. Chen Cheng pursed his lips. It didn't land. Is that the best you can do? Did I not teach you manners, or do you just not want to apologize? Zhong Tianda kicked his son, sending him stumbling to the ground. Stop, get up. Chen Cheng reached out and pulled Zhong Hao to his feet. The damage was minor, he honestly didn't care that much. They were going to be business partners now, so just fix the repair. He wouldn't dwell on it. That night, Zhong Tianda took the financial hit, which saved Qin Meng a lot of money. Chen Cheng didn't let him pay too much. There was no need to go overboard. The next day, after all the paperwork was transferred, Chen Cheng laid out the factory's new rules and left Zhu Kaiyang in charge. Old Zhu, I'm heading back. I'll be back in 3 days with Smith. Set up the office internet. He'd said he didn't mind driving alone, but inside, his heart was bleeding. He had no idea if 10,000 would cover the rental damage. He hadn't checked the insurance. Luckily, the rental company didn't push it. They just made him pay for 1 day's lost rental. And when he asked about buying or renting again, they were flexible. I'll hold off on buying, that kind of thing doesn't suit me. Chen Cheng laughed dryly. No way he was dropping a few $100,000 on a luxury car right now. Too extravagant. Back at the factory, he put together a new strategy. Food sales were already expanding outside the city. Now he could focus on making the juice brand famous again. Draft an announcement. Free juice samples. Make the price big and bold. Don't worry about costs. The old Chen Cheng would have fretted over every penny. Not anymore. Boss, my friend's here. He grabbed a cab and he'll be at the factory gate any second. Wang Ping'an's voice boomed across the floor. Good. Let's go meet him. Ma Li had long hair and zero sense of style. He was a total shut-in, before that word even got thrown around. Chen Cheng's first glance told him the guy looked wiped out, but people like that, they usually knew networks and computers inside out. Mr. Chen, I'm Ma Li, Wang Ping'an's college buddy. Really glad to be working for you. Ma Li stammered. Nerves, probably. Come on in. I've got work that needs doing right now. Chen Cheng led him into the office. He'd just dragged a computer over from the internet cafe and gotten the line hooked up. Whatever you need, boss. If I can do it, I'll make it happen. The guy promised before even hearing the ask. That caught Chen Cheng off guard, but Ma Li seemed solid. Chen Cheng handed over his phone. On the screen was a rough prototype for a securities trading simulation. The software was barely half a product. Clunky functions, transmission glitches. Still, it was the only thing on the market. No other company had built anything decent. This is obsolete. The future's digital. Something like this is dead on arrival. Ma Li sounded sure of himself. He told Chen Cheng he could build a much better platform in 3 days. Not just securities, it could calculate commissions, fees, and interest down to the cent, then build it. I've got a securities firm that just went through a shakeup. I'll show you how the real world works. Chen Cheng waved Ma Li toward the car. They headed straight for the brokerage. By now, the manager there had to be swimming in profits. The manager froze when he spotted Chen Cheng, then he snapped out of it. Mr. Chen, I've already liquidated all your positions, just like you said. Told you it would pay off. Stick with me, nothing goes wrong. After we subtract our 600 grand in shares, there should still be, what, 10 million in dividends? Chen Cheng didn't miss a beat. Yes, how did you know? The manager stared, stunned. He never imagined Chen Cheng had calculated it that precisely. It was almost spooky. I've been buying stocks a long time. You probably weren't even in the game when I started. Chen Cheng told Ma Li to get to work on the computer. He wanted to see the final product. Then he signaled the manager to step aside for a private conversation. Chen Cheng owned the room now. Wang Zhan, set that capital aside for now. Buy up every share of Huafeng you can get your hands on, every last one, no matter the price. Chen Cheng kept it simple, accounts stay clean. Business is business. He didn't care about the rest. Got it. Also, the interest and fees. We've collected 313,000 in interest this time. Wang Zhen added that under the contract, Chen Cheng was owed a one-time payment of 157,000. Deposit it into my card. Your firm's back on its feet. Let my young friend here handle the tech projects. Give the kid a real shot. Chen Cheng clapped the manager on the shoulder. When he wasn't around, Wang Zhen should run the brokerage. Point 1 rule only. Don't get impulsive. Impulse is the devil. By that moment, the balance in Chen Cheng's account had blown past 100 million. Nobody would guess a billionaire was still hustling food stalls. Come on, fresh juice, free samples, don't miss out. Wang Khan's throat was wrecked after half a day of shouting, so he switched to a megaphone. A tea first. Almost no one dared try it. Shoppers had never seen a supermarket do samples like that. Hey, man, want a taste? You look beat from all that walking. Wang Khan poured a full cup and handed it to a guy. The guy knocked it back in one gulp and immediately asked for another. 1 cup. 2 cups. 3. By the 10th cup, Wang Khan's heart was bleeding. Man, you can really pack it away. He took the empty cup with a look of stunned respect. The guy let out a loud belch. All right, I'm full now, but I didn't really taste it. Give me a case of this. He pointed at the juice boxes stacked behind Wang Khan, the biggest size. Sure thing. Wang Khan blinked, then loaded a case into the guy's cart. That was the first sale. Course, it only counted once he paid. But what Wang Khan didn't expect was that one guy's sample would set off a buying frenzy across the whole store. Within minutes, every bottle of Huiyuan juice was wiped out. Not just the pure juice, other drinks got swept up in the promotion too. Chen Cheng's only rule: shave the profit if you have to, but get the product moving. If this batch of customers bought in, word of mouth would do the rest. This is insane. Chen Cheng's team cleared every bottle of Huiyuan juice. You think it's some kind of marketing play? The deputy manager reported up the chain, baffled. No, we're the sellers. We make money when they sell. Huiyuan is just a supplier. They won't out-earn us. General Manager Ma told him not to overthink it. Chen Cheng's boldness was the real thing. He wasn't just feeding revenue into Sugua. Even Yang from Huiyuan had called him personally, calling Chen Cheng the pioneer of their entire brand overhaul. By now, nobody in the group had a word to say about Chen Cheng's stake. Everyone was rolling out his sales model. Of course, Chen Cheng kept 90% of the juice line's revenue. He only had to kick 10% up to higher-ups for operations. That was the deal he'd struck with Yang. If Yang hadn't agreed, Chen Cheng would have walked. He could invest in any drink brand and make it work, and no need to fight over this one. Hey, tomorrow's a holiday, should we? At the word holiday, Chen Cheng almost forgot. If Feng Yilu hadn't reminded him, he would have blanked completely.